Hello. Bit of technical difficulties there. Hello, everyone. You can probably tell from my voice that I'm incredibly under the weather. So I'm going to try and remember to mute my mic before I cough and splutter everywhere. Looks like Jonas has won this week's comments, even though I know Michael, Mike, and myself all commented before, but I think they delete. So, but yeah, better late than never. It's me. How lucky. Paul's monitors in chat. Yo. But yeah, I am under the weather. I've had a bit of a burnout, to be honest, lately. But this podcast is going to be sort of centered around that. So how exciting. Hello, Mike. Hello, Ben. How are you doing, my friend? Hello, Dan, all the way from another country. Mr. MJH Exotics in the house. Same as always. Where is my banner? I don't know. There it is. Shout out to the Bug Factory. The link is in the description. Cheapest bugs that I found in the UK. Use Pools-Monitors-5 for your 5% off your first order of bugs. Great guys and girls over there at the Bug Factory. Really have sorted me out. I support them 100%. Go and check the Bug Factory out. Who else we got? Repti Room. Hello, Repti Room. I don't think I've seen you before, so thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining. And Touch M3. I don't think I've seen you before either. Hello. Yeah, as always with all the podcasts, unscripted, live. Any comments, any questions for myself or the guest, please feel free just to drop them in the chat. Wow, we got new people. Tegan, hi. I hope I'm saying that right. I'm a bit illiterate, so bear with me. Anyway, without further ado, today's guest is a guy that I've got to know over Instagram who's a fellow tree monitor keeper, also works with a few other cool species of reptile, which we will get into. But introducing the man himself, Mr. FJR Exotics.
Hello, Paul, and everyone else in the chat, obviously.
How you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. You?
Yeah, I've been better, mate. I've been better. Like, I think it's a common theme when people go, "You're right." You go, "Yeah, I'm all right." When the truth of the matter is, no one ever is all right.
Yeah.
But yeah, just quickly for everybody, if you want to do a quick introduction of yourself and the species that you keep.
So I'm Freddie. I run the Instagram and Facebook and TikTok for FJR Exotics. I keep obviously tree monitors. I've got the Proscenus. I've got a Bacari. And the other things I keep, I've got morning geckos, tokay geckos, which are quite a big thing that I'm working with because they're carrying the genes for patternless. I'm hoping to produce some patternless tokays this year if I can.
Nice.
And then I've also got the pair of tegus, the male and female, black and whites. Again, hoping to produce eggs from them this year. But yeah, I've got a few tarantulas here and there as well, and also look after my partner's snake as well. But that's a joint effort thing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what I do at the start of every podcast, just to loosen you up a little bit, I've got some quick fire questions. So they're basically like yes or no, or like up or down. But you'll see as it goes. You can either just go short and sharp, or you can elaborate however you see fit.
Yeah.
So, snakes or lizards?
Lizards.
Money or time?
Money.
Mentally strong or physically strong?
Mentally strong.
Wild caught good, wild caught bad?
I believe other people have said this answer as well, but it depends. One, on how people look after them, and two, what they're planning to do with them.
Pro snake rack or no snake rack?
I'd say no snake rack because I like to go for more naturalistic enclosures.
Yeah. Arid species or tropical species?
Gotta be tropical.
Gotta be tropical. Tree monitor gang for life.
Exactly that.
Donkeys or llamas?
Donkeys, I'd say.
Big reptiles or small reptiles?
Big reptiles.
Big monitors or dwarf monitors?
Well, I love the crocodile monitors, so they'll instantly win it for me, so I'll say big monitors.
Nice. Instagram famous or YouTube famous?
I'd say Instagram famous, to be fair.
Now we're talking about the shoes. Pro Crocs or no Crocs?
Although I don't own a pair of Crocs myself at the moment, I am pro Crocs.
Good. I was about to say you can't handle monitors without Crocs. You got to cop yourself a pair. Feisty or tame?
It depends what I'm working with. If it's something that doesn't pack as much of a punch, it can be as feisty if it likes. But things like the tegus, where they can pack a fair punch, then I'd go for tame.
And finally, wild types or morphs?
I'd say wild types.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, there are some incredible morphs, but yeah, you can't beat a wild type.
What? So obviously morphs. Going on morphs, just quickly. Like if I said to you, like, if I just asked the open question, what's your favorite morph? Like, what's the first thing that pops into your head? And what animal? And then what morph? Like, is the first thing that pops into your head?
Well, for snakes, it would probably be the Calretics, just because I love the way they start white with a few yellow dots, and then they gradually progress into black polka dots and patterning everywhere. I think that's incredible.
Yeah.
For lizards, you could probably name pretty much any of the morphs of tokay geckos, and they're incredible. The pieds, the graphite patternless, the patternless heads with green bodies and things like that. There's the high red ones, there's loads of those. There's quite a lot of tegu morphs in the United States that are being produced that are really nice, but I just can't remember the actual genes for them. But I love the albino tegos as well. They're incredible.
Yeah. I prefer just wild type tokays. Like,
I don't. Totally with you there. I do love them,
Yeah.
but like when you see the really high red ones, I think they're just like the ones that nerd work with quite a lot.
Yeah, I can't say that I've seen them. I've seen high red tokays, but I haven't seen nerds ones, to be honest. Right, excuse me, everyone. Quick lay to the chat. Quiet lurker. Make a habit of getting involved. And I know who you are. I know we spoke about Moss. And Fee, which is, don't know if you know, but it's my girlfriend. She said good choice regarding the donkeys and llamas. So, the thing from Smart, I don't know what she's fucking going on about. Anyway, so when did you first start? Let's just get a bit of background on yourself. When did you first start keeping reptiles? Like how old and what was your first reptile?
So I would have probably been about 8 or 9 years old. So that would be about 2007, 2008 sort of time.
Yeah.
I've been fascinated with reptiles since I could walk, essentially. But I was always pestering my parents saying, "Can I get a reptile? Can I get a reptile? Can I get a reptile?" And I was never allowed. And then one day we came up with the plan that if I'd done the animals, so we've always had dogs, cats, birds of prey, things like that. If I fed, watered, cleaned the animals every day, morning and night for 6 months or so without fail, then I was allowed to get one. And I did it.
Yeah.
And then I got a pair of green anoles for my first reptiles.
Nice. That's a cool one.
Yeah, you don't see them as much anymore, which is quite strange because when I got them, they were literally like 10 or 12 pounds. They were ridiculously cheap.
Yeah.
And everywhere had them, but now they seem to be quite of a
They're like
luxury reptile.
It's mad.
Yeah, they're just I don't see that many places selling them either.
Yeah. Okay. And then where did you go from your green anoles? Once you got the green anoles, where did you
I
end up?
got a leopard gecko probably like a year or so later. And then from then to now, I've sort of had a variety of things: retics, boas, beardies, more leopard geckos. Obviously, the ones I've got now. Yeah, I just sort of worked with a bit of everything, but now I've sort of mainly focused on, like I say, the tree monitors, the tegus, sort of things I want to specialize in, so to speak.
So what got you on the journey of the tree monitors then? Like, what was it that sparked the fire for the tree monitors?
So I think it was when I was going to actually get my green anoles. Someone had the shop we were going to, which was called the Japanese Koi Shop in it's just outside of Hertfordshire. But
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, they had a pair of green tree monitors in there, and I was just absolutely obsessed with them. I thought they were like little dinosaurs. They were incredible. I'd never seen them before.
Yeah.
And I just fell in love with them. I never actually thought I'd be able to own one until I came into contact with our good friend Matthew.
Yeah, he's a maker of dreams, that man.
I was going to say, he certainly helped me achieve a fair few of mine over the last year. Yeah, that was the same sort of thing with the tegus. I went to a shop, I saw there was tegus in there. I'd never seen a lizard that big in person, and I was just like amazed that people in this country could keep those as pets. So That was
Yeah.
always a goal for me. And then, as I say, now 10 years on, I've got the tree monitors, I've got tegus, I've got the things that I wanted to work with. However, I do still need a blue and a yellow before I can complete my so-called tree monitor collection.
And don't forget the biax.
Oh yeah, I can't forget those. Just
Don't
again, they're quite rare over here, aren't they?
Yeah, they never use. Well, they've always been rare, but they used to be here. And yeah, then no one was breeding them, and they all just went over to Europe, and now we can't get them back. So,
Gonna say Europe and America are so good for everything else, and then we're sort of just caught in the middle.
yeah, since Brexit, but hey, what's your favorite tree monitor then? It's like, just if you have to order blue, yellow, green, black, and biac in your top 5 in order, what order you going?
I might get some controversy for my my least favorite, but my first favorite's the blues.
Yeah.
Then the blacks, then the greens, then the biacs, and then funnily enough, the yellows are probably my least favorite, I'd say.
Okay. I mean, I'm the same as you. Yellows are my least favorite.
So only because, like, the greens and the yellows as babies, they look very similar. The yellows seem to come out really green when they're born, whereas the blues are just absolutely popping with that luminous neon blue.
Yeah.
And then the biacs almost look a bit whitish sometimes when they come out, which I think is quite interesting.
Yeah.
And then the blacks are just a solid black animal with a few odd spotting on the back that fades as they get older. So, and you can't really beat an all black animal. So
No, I find so. Matt has said blue, black, green. Oh, black's taken over green for you, Matthew. It's only because he's got like one of the nicest black tree monitors in the world. So
but I found this one, my one, Oscura, even though she's in bed now, she's so much more confident than Verde. And she's like about a year, just under a year younger. But the confidence is ridiculous. Like your ones, you've got them jumping out the bibs for their food.
Yeah, that's taken a while, but yeah.
I literally tried it today, probably about the second time, and she was flying out, climbing up me, coming to eat the food. It was incredible.
Yeah,
Whereas Verde's still a bit tentative with coming out. Sometimes she won't even want to come out onto my arm. She's just happy just eating in there by herself.
Yeah, I find that, like, when I first got into tree monitors, so I got the female Maruki, which is now with Matt. It was quite shy when I first got it, and then within a couple of months, it was coming out. It was pretty chill. And then I got my Sarong Kermit, my big green male, which then I was hoping to pair, and I did pair them. But then obviously I found out there were 2 males, so I split them. But Kermit was incredibly flighty and shy. So it's taking me about 2.5 years to get him to the point where he'll come out on me. And then baby Kada, which also was bred by Matt. She's always tongue fed. She's always been, but she's been quite, but yeah, out of nowhere. I don't know why, but because I don't try and like have that behavior. I literally just undone the Viv one day, went to feed her like normal, and she just launched herself at me. I was like, oh shit. Like, what the fuck? So yeah, she just sort of came out of nowhere. But you've had Verde, your green, for what, a year now?
It was a year in March, so yeah, just over a year now.
A year. Okay, so Michael, who's also another great friend of mine and Matt, has said green, yellow, blue, biac, black, boo.
Can't be having the blacks that low.
I think people sleep on the blacks. I don't think people realise how sort of social Beckerai can be. Yeah, the Beckerai are 100% more confident. So the problem is people like blues because obviously, like you say, the colour. But for me, I've never kept blues, but I think blues can be very shy, and you don't realise that, and then you get them. And when you get Proscenus or Beckerai, I've started more saying Bakari now, which is annoying because I always used to say Beckerai. But I'm going to say it with my chest nonetheless, and probably flip between the two. So I find Beckerai, you can, there as soon as you get them, you go, oh my god, like you say, your one is a year younger, and it's a lot more social. Were you surprised by that, or were you sort of expecting it to be more social?
Well, I knew she was quite confident and bold from her previous owner, who, again, our brilliant friend Matthew. A massive thanks to him again, and a massive shout out. I know we both have a lot of love and a lot of time for him. He's an absolute legend within the hobby.
He's a prick.
Yeah. Luckily, he gave me the monitor before we decided to
Yeah,
tell him that we feel
that's
that way.
it. Yeah.
No, but yeah,
Now he's got monkey skinks as well, bastard.
I was gonna say, well, I don't know what's next. He'll have the is it the Bomi next?
Yeah, maybe. When they're here, I'm sure he'll get them.
I was gonna say, I think everyone's gonna be having a race for those when they become available. But yeah, I knew she was confident or certainly more bold than Matthew's Proscenus, but I didn't. Literally the second day I had her, she was climbing out onto my arm all the way up, happy to be held, feeding off me and everything.
Yeah.
Because like I say, even now, Vida has days where she's sort of like, not too sure about this. I might just go back in and hide. I might come out, not sure.
Yeah. So Matt says you're more than welcome, mate. He's glad that they've gone to a good home.
Yeah, we always keep in contact, me and Matthew. Obviously, we've been in contact quite a lot recently. Like we speak about our mental health, our animals, our similarities, which we do seem to share quite a lot of. We found out.
Yeah. We'll get into that. We'll definitely get into that because I do want to touch on the mental health of reptiles. I just feel like it's a little bit early in the podcast to get deep. So we'll leave.
Oh, no, it's fine.
No, I'm not saying that, but we'll give the people a bit of tree monitor talk, and then we'll get into the mental health stuff. So what's your plan with the tree monitors then? Is it raise up your now black and obviously Virde's over 1 now, so are you planning on finding a male for her first? Are you planning on just getting more? What's the plan? Have you even got a plan, or are you just winging it?
I did have a male lined up for Verde, but when Matthew was packing up the black tree monitor, he sent me a picture of it averting its hemiclip.
Yeah.
So I know that was a female. But every time Verde's averted anything, I've never seen anything like that. So I'm starting to be a bit 50-50 on whether
male.
Yeah, so I wouldn't want to then go out and get a male, put them together, and then having spent all that money when it could also, one, lead to them to not getting along, causing damage to one or the other. Two, that money could have then gone towards a female instead if I needed a female. So I want to wait and be 100% sure before I decide on anything.
Yeah.
But I'm torn between either trying to get, like I say, a yellow, a blue, a black, a green, a biac, so I can sort of study each one, see if there's any behavioural differences or anything like that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm also tempted to just sort of focus on the black and the green now that I've got them and try and find the opposites for each sex that I have.
Yeah, it's quite the problem you have is you sort of have to go for babies, and if they end up being females, then great. If they end up being males, right, it is what it is. For example, obviously my baby, I'm pretty sure it's a female, but I say this to Matt quite a lot. The problem is if you have a baby animal, and for example, I have a male, so obviously I want a female. But if I spend the next year and a half going, oh my God, I hope you're a female. Oh my God, I hope you're a female. I forget to enjoy that year and a half of having a beautiful baby Proscenus.
Yeah.
So it's very important for people. It's like anything when you buy baby animals, like you're obviously hoping for the females, like let's be honest. But then you almost put too much pressure on because the sex is the sex. You can't change it. They are what they are. The second that with monitors, the second the sperm hits the egg, they are sex determined. They're not incubator temperature. They're not incubator temperature sex. Whatever the fuck. They're not temperature sex. They're basically as soon as the sperm hits the egg, they're boy or girl. So you can't change it. So for me, it's like if she's a boy, it's shit. But oh well. I've got this beautiful like baby animal. Do you feel the same, or are you like, I just need pairs?
Well, like, as much as I'd love to breed them, as much as I'd love to breed everything I keep, really, at some point, I am quite happy to just sort of sit, observe, and enjoy the time I have with them.
Yeah.
So like with Verde, even though I've wanted to breed her, him, whatever they identify as and are,
that's fitting with that comment. Are you presuming monitors genders? Yes. Yes.
Well,
they're either males or females. They're males or females. People, they can be whatever they like. Monitor lizards are males and females. Anyway, as you were.
Yeah, so I sort of spent the time building the bond with her where, obviously, as I say, she may not always want to come out, but she's not afraid of me. She knows who I am. She'll always come to the front of the glass, sort of see who's there. She realises it's me. She's happy to chill around. So as I say, not always happy coming out.
Yeah.
Whereas if I was just constantly focusing on trying to have the opposite sex, like you say, just focusing on the wrong thing, then I wouldn't have enjoyed the last year, 14 months with her as much as I have.
Of course. So, would you say that you were underprepared going into tree monitors? Not in the sense that you've not done enough research, but did you go, yep, I'm ready, and then get it and go, fuck, I'm not ready? Or do you think you were quite well prepared?
Oh, I don't think I've ever been more prepared for an animal than I was when I first got Verde. Matthew, I'm sure, can attest to this. I had this setup ready weeks before. I was running all the lights and the heating to make sure the temperatures were spot on, the humidity was spot on, everything was perfect. It gave the plants all the chance to grow in there. So obviously I could monitor the enclosure for a full day. I could monitor the night cycle, check it before I go to bed and when I wake up to see what the ambient temperatures were. And then obviously when the heat bulbs, basking bulbs are on, I can make sure everything's running to the correct temperatures that it is. And like I say, I feel like I was more prepared than I have been for anything else. But I think it's also because that was probably the most specialist animal I've owned. Like retics are pretty easy to keep, raw pythons, bearded dragons, leopard geckos, like easy enough to keep. But most snakes are pretty easy to keep, to be fair, unless you move into like tree boas and tree pythons that have specific dietary and feeding schedules and things like that.
Yeah.
Where it doesn't have to be as strict with the other things, as I said before. So yeah, with her, I was more prepared than I have been for any animal.
Matt says he completely agrees. And Michael, he's wanted a tree monitor forever, and he's had a 6 foot tall, 4 foot wide, 2.5 foot deep Viv empty for years because he's not managed to. Well, the truth of the matter is he just hasn't had the opportunity to get one yet. So, but I think Matt will be making his dreams come true at some point in time as well.
It's another one. I was going to say he's done it for a few people I've seen on Instagram now.
He's like Father Christmas of the tree monitors,
but all year round.
Yeah, just like drop in tree monitors. Tree monitors don't like Scotland, but yeah. So, what would you say was the biggest learning curve since owning a Proscenus? Like, what did you learn that you didn't read, or what weren't you ready for, if anything?
I definitely wasn't ready for their speed. I knew they were fast, but on times where she has got a bit panicked and jumped out of the enclosure and just bolted.
Gone. Yeah.
I was going to say, I was sort of 1 minute she's there, the next minute she's behind the Tego enclosure, for example. And obviously I can't show you on camera, but it's bloody huge and it takes about 6 people just to slide it away from the wall. So that wasn't fun when she manages to get behind there. But other than that, like I say, like all the humidity requirements, the heat, the lighting, diet, everything like that, I was worried about it because I wasn't sure if I'd be able to provide it. Because I often second guess myself and doubt myself a lot. But as I say, I haven't had any issues yet. Touch wood.
Yeah, touch wood.
And everything's gone well so far.
Good. And then you haven't had the Beckerai all that long, have you?
No, it's probably been about a month now, probably.
Yeah. And has there been anything that you've observed outside of boldness in comparison between the blacks and the greens?
I'd say literally just the boldness, really. Like I say, Verde, if she gets a bit intimidated or flighty, she will just run. Whereas the Beckerai will tend to sort of, well, especially this one, will stand its ground. She'll turn around, she'll hiss, she'll huff up. When I first got her out to put her in the enclosure, she was sat puffing up, trying to bite. But luckily, I managed to avoid any little nips or anything.
Yeah, you're lucky you brought that one because it was going to come to me if you didn't.
Oh, I couldn't miss it. I can't even remember how long I'd been waiting. I think we'd spoke about it.
Yeah, Matt kept saying to me, he's like, Paul, you can't have it. I was like, Freddie, I'm holding it for Freddie. I was like, yeah, don't worry about Freddie. I'll have it. So, yeah, I was, I saw it when it was a baby. I'm pretty sure he had it when I was over there. Pretty sure he did. Either way, I get loads of pictures and videos, and I was like, "Oh man, I need that in my life." So
every time I got a video as well, it was sort of growing and then growing and then growing, and then I was half expecting it to be bigger than Verde when it came, but obviously with it being a hell of a bit younger, and a female is quite a bit smaller.
They still get big, still push 3 foot, like definitely. Still, they're a big. I think people don't realize how big some tree monitors are.
No, I saw someone put one on one of the Facebook groups where they were trying to sex one, and he had it, and it was obviously the tail makes up most of the size, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
wasn't far off, or maybe even a little bit longer than my male tegu, who's an absolute unit.
That's kind of mad when you think about it, isn't it?
Well, especially when you consider the fact tegus are a big lizards, but then they're the
Yeah, yeah,
same
yeah.
length as a tree monitor, and people will just consider these as medium-sized lizards.
So let's go from just quickly tree monitors to tokays, because I might end up getting some tokays off you one day, because me and Fee both want tokays again, because I used to have tokays.
Yeah.
I see you've got a reet stack in there, sideways,
Yes.
which I thought was pretty cool. And I see there's eggs glued in there.
Yeah.
How's that working out? Obviously well, but how's that working out?
That was a totally off-the-cuff, random improvisation, really. I had it from because I sold on my Kimberly that I had on because I wanted to obviously pay for the black, and I had other things that I had to work towards because I was trying to downsize but focus on the things that I want to specialize in, as I say.
Yeah, yeah.
So I had the stack there. So instead, I stood it up and I had it under the basking bit with a flat bit of bark on top. So obviously, it's not getting constant heat on there. They have the option to bask on there, go underneath for a slightly warmer level. But where they like to lay their eggs in vertical positions or hides, I thought that could work brilliantly. And then, like I say, the second clutch of eggs they laid were in there.
Yeah.
And then I think I've got 3 or 4 clutches extra laid in there now because I've got about 8 in the slates. And then I've got one where a bit of the background's peeled off. One of them squeezed down there and laid 2, which is helpful.
Yeah. What have you got? 1.2, 1.3?
1.3. So I'm sure. So it's either 2 of the females are laying consistently each month, or possibly even 3 of them are now.
Nice. And are they all het patternless, or just a couple? Or
so yeah, the male and all the females, and the one unsexed one that's running around in there, they are all 100% het patternless, or so I was told when I purchased them. But from what I understand, the genetics with tokays can be quite complicated. As in, sometimes you can breed a het to a het, and it still doesn't produce it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know, to be honest. I don't dabble in the genetic world, so I can't comment. But either way, you're obviously doing something right with them, because if they're breeding for you regularly.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say literally probably a week or 2 after I got them, I noticed the first clutch of eggs.
Okay.
And then, like clockwork, bang on a month later, there was 2 more. So I knew at least one female was laying.
Yeah.
And then now, as I say, I've got 10 or 12 eggs in there, and I had them since January. So that's 5 months.
Yeah.
So it's got to be, as I say, 2 or all of the females are laying at the moment, which is good for me because it means hopefully it's a bigger chance the odds gods are going to be in my favour.
So I'm assuming, because I know some tokays aren't visual until they grow up, but I'm assuming obviously patternless, because I've obviously seen a patternless tokay. I'm assuming as soon as it hatches, you'll know that it's patternless.
I'm assuming so, yeah, but obviously I'll be keeping all the babies and raising them up until they're old enough to go. Unless they are patternless, then I'll be keeping them until they're old enough to breed again.
Yeah. Have you noticed any cool behaviours? Because obviously the mums and the dad raise the babies, and you've got a little baby in there, so
they're really like with each other. They're not so gentle. If one of the adults gets in the way of the other adults when they're feeding, they'll let them know to clear off. To put it politely. But if the baby one, or baby T as it's called, if he's near, they're so gentle. They're so careful. Even though he's obviously not close to their size, but he's 3 or 4 times the size he was when I got him. They're still very careful around him when they eat to make sure they don't catch him or accidentally eat him as well.
That's pretty sick. Just quickly, yo, Gary, what is good, my friend? And don't worry, Fee. Gary messaged me before and said, so he said he was out. So we're going to let Gary off this one time. But remember, Gary, you have a job. I don't want to be doing your job. I sort of lost train of thought then. So the tokay geckos, why tokay geckos? Because I can understand the change tegus monitors. I can understand that. Why tokay geckos?
To be honest, I've always liked tokays. I mean, the bite's something I don't want to experience, and I've been lucky enough, again, touch wood, to not have experienced. But there's just something about them because obviously with cresties, gargoyles, leeches, they'll eat the Pangeas and the mixes and stuff, which is cool enough, but it's not like I like things that will actually you can see them go and hunt their prey. They can catch their prey. Whereas the tokays are just incredible, especially when I throw a load of locusts or crickets in, for example, and then you can watch the baby go for the smaller ones, the bigger ones go for the big ones. Especially Forrest, the male, he's an absolute star. He'll literally come and wait at the front of the glass now, just because he knows, like, if I come in with a torch on at night, he thinks, all right, food time. So he's just there waiting, whereas the females will hang back a bit. So he's really bold. He's very confident. And I'm hoping I'd be able to, sort of, as I say, produce some babies and then sort of work with them from birth, and I can have some tame tokays, so to speak.
Literally, I wanted to do that. That's literally, me and Fee got a pair, and I get so unlucky when I buy pairs because it was 2 females. But at the time, you just take people's words for it. The paws looked different, but it was just one was just a bit of a chunky female and had like more obvious paws than the other one. So looking at them, it was a pair, but the reality is, as I learned more, it was 2 females. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get babies, and I'll work with them, and I'll have Paul's tame tokays. And now we're bloody Paul's monitors. But Michael asks, do you have any plans for any other types, which I'm assuming any other morphs, of tokay, or just the group you have?
I don't know too many other morphs within the UK at the moment. I mean, I'm not massively within the tokay hobby. I mean, I
think
have
Granite's
mine, I work
here,
with them.
and I think, oh god, there's another morph here. There's Granite, and then there's something else. There used to be loads. We used to have Pieds here. I don't know where they're all gone now.
Danny Craig used to be the man for tokays, but he's got out of keeping tokays. I think he said he kept them for 20 years or so.
Fair play. Yeah, I don't know.
But I mean, the stuff he keeps now as well is incredible. Obviously, he's not here, so I'm not going to name all the animals he keeps, but he works with some incredible things as well,
Yeah, Danny Craig's collection is pretty sick. But yeah, green-headed blues, green blue heads, whatever. I've seen green-headed blues. That's the other one I was thinking of. I like those, but they're basically just patternless but with a green head.
Yeah, so I wouldn't mind finding quite a high red female to go with Forrest, because although he's the het patternless, he's really quite high red. When he fires up, his spots are massive and they're so bright orangey red, it almost makes him look like a red tokay at times.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't mind going with that. I wouldn't mind getting an actual patternless one to maybe try and breed a visual patternless to a het patternless, see if that increases the odds at all. But breeding wise, I'm happy to just sort of work with what I've got for now, see how that goes. Work on the tokays and tegus for breeding. Work on the tree monitors, just sort of, as I say, studying them, getting to learn the behavioural differences and things like that.
Yeah. I like to say, I may or may not end up getting some, because I flick between wanting things and not wanting things. But Fee's not really into reptiles, but she does like the tokay geckos, and she misses our tokay geckos. I just worry about how noisy the males can be with having neighbours. Is my biggest issue.
Yeah, obviously, because the container's not in my actual house. It's literally a shipping container that's been insulated and kitted out with electrics. So a few times when I've come in at night, like I was coming in with my partner the other day, for example, we were outside and we heard like a and she was looking around like, what was that? I was like, it's the tokays, don't worry. Because obviously she hadn't heard them before. And to be honest, I hadn't really heard these ones making noise before. Tokays I've kept before would go on all night, but obviously that's because they lived in my bedroom, so they didn't want to let me sleep, so they would just constantly shout to each other.
Yeah.
But the morning geckos I found have been louder than the tokays, because they'll go off during the day, during the night, all the time. They're just constantly calling to each other.
I want to get a group of morning geckos, just for scientific purposes. Let's just say that. Michael recently me and him went halves on some Kims. He's recently just received some Kims that I've been raising for him for a few months, and they're a dream lizard of his. So that's the background behind the question. Bigger question: why did you sell the Kim?
So it was more so space. I knew I wanted to get more tree monitors. I had 2 Kims. I had an adult one and I had a baby one. The adult one was literally just for space. I keep knocking my wire, which is moving
Hey, you're
the
fine.
tablet. Sorry.
You're fine, man. You're fine.
The baby one was an absolute escape artist. I sealed the vents up, and I think I may have missed the tiniest corner, and it squeezed out of that through the smallest space. I've had it where the glass wasn't fully shut; it was open probably about that much, and it had wormed its way in and got out. And I think it must have. Like, I put locks on. I've tried near enough everything I could to make it escape proof. And then even when I knew it was in there, if I couldn't see it, I would just be panicking that it escaped. And I didn't want me to make another mistake and leave something open or not have something 100% airtight secure and it escape and the worst happens. So I would have rather it gone to, and I sold it to someone who I'm still in contact with. He's a good friend of mine who lives down in Devon as well, so I can always see it if I need to.
Yeah.
But I would have rather him go to a place where I know he's going to be with one, other Kimberleys in future, two, somewhere where they can guarantee look after him, because I would just be devastated if he'd have got out and somehow got into the Tegel enclosure, for example.
Yeah, we had my baby. Yesterday, I was coming back from work. I was on the phone to Fee, and she was like, "Oh fuck, the baby Kim's out." I was like, "What?" And she was like, "The baby Kim's out," and I was like, "Oh my god." And I was like, "Can you grab it?" And she again, she's not really into reptiles, but shout out Fee, she's a trooper, so she managed to grab it. And I was like, "Oh, did it dash?" She was like, "No, it's pretty chill." But basically, I left out the lock. I don't know when, how, but I just left out the lock and it squeezed out the thing, and then it would have had to have fallen like it's like 4.5 foot off the floor. This tiny baby Kim has obviously dropped to the floor. Had a tree monitor, my Maruki that Matt's got. I don't know if you know this story, but it got out and it lived outside in the wild for like 10 days. And then Fee came home from work and found it on our doorstep sunbathing. Yeah.
No, I didn't know that. I've heard of other stories like that where people have said, "Oh, my tree monitor's escaped and it's probably gone outside," and then most of the time they never see it again.
Yeah.
But no, I didn't know that. That's,
But to this day, all the vents were in and the doors were shut. So
no idea how.
It's an adult tree monitor. So no idea how it got out, but it did. And we had the windows open because it was summer. And I only was in a tiny flat at the time, and I ripped the flat apart. And people were like, "Oh, it's going to be somewhere." And I was like, "You don't understand how small my flat is. Trust me, it's not in here." Anyway, Fee ended up coming home one day. I'm pretty sure she was unwell, so she came home from work sick, so she shouldn't have been coming home at that time. And she called me. I missed the phone call. She called me again. I missed the phone call because I was at work. And then she was like texting me like, "Fucking answer the phone now." And I'm like, "Shit, what the fuck have I done?" Like, so I'm like, "Hello?" And she's like, "The fucking lizard." And I was like, "What do you mean?" Because in my head, it's dead. It's just gone. It's dead. I'm like, "What lizard?" Because obviously I've got a few. And she's like, "The green tree, it's out." And I was like, "Oh, not the other one," because obviously I had two. I was like, "Fucking hell." And she was like, "No, like, well, we call it Woog. So Woog is like on the doorstep." And I was like, "You need to grab it. Go inside, get the gloves, grab it." And she's like, "I can't go through to grab it. I just have to grab it." And I was like, "Oh, fuck. Just grab it then." And I was like, "If you feel up to it, grab it." And she said she just grabbed it, got it by the tail, and apparently it was like trying to swing back around and bite her and stuff. So fair play to her. Fucking, yeah, she got it in, got it. They back in, back done. So yeah.
Fair play. I mean, there's been times where I've had to grab Verde when she's obviously bolted, and she'll do the same thing. The last resort is to swing up and try and bite. Luckily, I haven't been caught yet, but I feel like my time's coming.
So, fake fan, Riddler, fake fan, you're making a habit of this. Kims are supposed to escape. That's just all they do. Sadly, that is just all Kims do. I'm in Petco right now. I can't stand the reptile section. Gary. I know. Petco's basically all you fucking pets at home dev center.
I was going to say it's American Pets at Home, isn't it?
For people that don't know, it's basically. I was going to say something, but I generally just forgot. I don't know. Not as fake as Will. Yeah, Will Exotic's a prick. He's never here. I mean, fuck me. I was actually going to say something. I generally just forgot. It was relevant to. Oh yeah, tree monitor bite. So, spoiler. So in my video next week, Kada, she took a nice chunk from my finger. not on purpose. She was eating a silkworm, and then she was on my hand, and she put it down, and then as she went to rebite it, she took my finger with it. So it was my fault because I let her eat on my hand, and then two days after Fee captured my adult male, green tree, so a couple of years ago. It was super tame, and I could go in there and touch its head and do what I wanted with it. So I went in there to check it the same day. I got it out, and it was like proper like aggro, but I got it out, checked it over, and it looked in great condition. I was like, all right, I'll leave you be. Left it for a couple of days, went back in there to check it out, and without me realizing it, just went wham, and like I pulled away, and I shouldn't have done, but I did, and it just nicked my finger with like a couple of teeth. That was it. And then I had like quite a bad reaction. I lost all the feeling in my hand. I had pins and needles all the way up my arm. I lost like full dexterity in my hand. Sorry, I had dexterity in my hand, but it was incredibly numb. I reckon you could have stabbed me and I wouldn't have felt it.
Yeah.
And then I had the same reaction when the mangrove bit me last week. I had the exact same reaction. And then when little tiny baby Kada bit me, I say she's a baby, she's coming up to 1. But when she bit me, I had the exact same reaction again. So I'm clearly allergic to the venom. So good luck when you do eventually get bitten, because it hurts.
Well, I mean, my worst bite I've ever taken, funnily enough, is from a peach rat. I think I commented on the video of
Yeah,
your
you did.
mangrove bunny. Yeah.
I wanted to actually remember, because I wanted to ask you about that. So what happened with that?
So, I went to handle it a few weeks after I'd got it. I'd given it time to settle in and everything.
Yeah.
And it jumped out and it went to run.
Oh, so it was your peach throat?
Yes. So basically, someone was selling it really cheap. I had the enclosure because I was planning on getting a bigger lizard, be that a monitor or a tegu. So I had a larger enclosure available.
Yeah.
And then I saw there was a peach throat for sale. And being young, dumb, and naive as I was, instead of seeing that as a red flag, a cheap lizard for sale, I thought, oh, that's a bargain.
Yeah.
So I got it. I had the temperatures right, the humidity right. I had a nice big water basin for it to go in, climbing space. Everything was brilliant. And then I just came in one day because it was struggling with eating. It would only eat if no one was in the room, and it would only seem to eat meat, pinkies, eggs, things like that. It would never eat bugs. And then I just came in one day and she was just really lethargic. She wasn't herself. And then I thought, well, I'll keep an eye on her for today. If she's still bad tomorrow, I'll take her to a vet. And then when I went to check on her the next day, she was just floating in her water bowl. And then when I'd taken her to get her done, they said that she just wasn't in good condition at all. She'd come from wild caught. She wasn't healthy. And this was before, I will be honest, it wasn't when I knew what to look for. Whereas now, if I went to buy an animal, I'd be able to say, oh, that doesn't look great. That looks better. Whereas then I was just, as I say, young and excited to have such an incredible animal because there was never any for sale in the UK at that point.
Yeah, it's still really rare now.
Yeah. But I mean, it should have been a red flag when I went to the person's house and they had it was animal hoarding 101.
Yeah.
And they were sort of showing me how they held their tegus, and I was just cringing the whole time. They were restraining it, like wrestling with it. I thought they were going to like pick it up and choke slam it at one point.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous because although they are bigger animals and sometimes you may need to be a bit more forceful, that's not how you get tegus to work with you. I'm by far an expert. I've spent every day for the last 5 years working with Nunes, every day for the last 3 years working with Reptiles, and they're maybe biased, but they're some of the best tegus I think people can ever meet. I can bring strangers in to come in and hold them and I have no problems.
Yeah.
But yeah, the bite was horrific. It was all calm. I went to put my hand under it to pick it back up and get it in the enclosure. And she just chomped down and I didn't pull away. She decided to just shake her head instead. And I had like a Harry Potter zigzag going down the tip of my finger.
Yeah.
But I didn't react to anything for any venom or anything. So that was good. But like I say, it did just unzip the tip of my finger, which wasn't brilliant.
So for me, when the mangrove bit my finger, like I was filming it because I never hold them ever. And I had them out for like maintenance and I was turning all the soil. And so obviously I have to get them out. I was like, oh, I'll take the opportunity to take some videos. So I was taking a video of it. And my phone flashed up like 10% power, like you get on the iPhones. So I was just like, all right, took my eye off the mangrove to press like just close or low power mode. And within that split second, it went, yeah, I'm going to have you, you prick. Wham. It went down on the baby finger. And I was just like, I've got it on video. And I was like, okay, all right, my fault. And this is literally what I'm saying to myself videoing. And I'm like, okay, my fault, fair enough. And I put it back down into the tub like that, flat palmed. And I was like, and then obviously it started to like bite and twist. And I was like, ow, 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 oh. I'm like, I need to end the video. And then that's literally what I say. And I end the video. And then I'm like holding it because I don't want it to thrash. And then obviously me holding it's causing it to bite more. And I was like, fuck's sake. So I put it back down. And I'm not going to front. It fucking hurt. And I was just like trying to breathe through it. And I was like, no, it's too painful. So I picked it up, took it to its enclosure, put it in its enclosure. Its enclosure's forward a bit, foot off the floor. So I'm like hand flat like this, like up high with it. Just like, come on, let go. And after about 5 or 10 minutes, I mean, it felt like about 5 hours, but reality, it was probably about 5 minutes. I was like, I need to get this lizard off. So I like got him and I was trying to slowly prise his bottom jaw, like just so I could wiggle my finger out. And so he's got me side on like this, and me taking his bottom jaw allows him to go front on, and then he goes down, and half of my finger is now down its throat. I was like, oh my God. And then I was like, I don't want to hurt him, but I need him off because it was just hurting so bad. And I was like, I don't know what to do. And then I was just like panicking. And I was like, this hurts so bad, but I don't want to hurt my lizard. So in the end, again, I just prized his bottom jaw open a little bit, pulled my finger out, like not pulled it. Because again, I know their teeth like recurve back. So I wanted to make sure he like spat my finger out.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it was an ordeal. I think, so I'm really sorry to hear this, Scales. Fingers crossed it shows up. Have faith. And then I think this is to you. I could be wrong because I have had a tegu. Oh no, I read it wrong. I thought you said, would you get a tegu again? I'm sorry. Would you get any other tegus? What have you got? Black and whites?
Yeah, I've got black and whites. I did have a blue who I tried to pair with my male black and white. So I took Nunez out, put her in a separate enclosure when I had a bit more room. And I put those two together, but it was like she was the biggest female tag I've ever seen. She was as big as the male is, which is quite unheard of. Females are usually, same with monitors, quite a bit smaller. And she was just like a bat out of hell. She was biting him, death rolling. Like, it was absolutely brutal. Not like, see, when the black and whites have paired, there's been a bit of aggression, but that's sort of normal with reptiles breeding. The males will bite onto the females will sort of resist every so often. But the blue was just a nightmare. She was actively going after him to attack him. So I split those up, and then again, whilst I was cutting down, I moved her onto a new home. And I still keep in contact with the person, so I know she's doing well. I know she's at a good home, which puts me at ease. But I would love to eventually get some albino ones, even if it's just one, because all you really need is one, and then I can sort of start incorporating it into the male or female that I have.
Yeah.
But they're so expensive, the albino ones. I think they're about $3 or $4 grand over here at the moment.
Yeah, damn.
And obviously, that for that price, I could get a tree monitor, maybe even two if I found the right deal.
Yeah. So you prefer the tree monitors over the tegus then? Tegus.
Obviously, we can't have favourites, but yeah.
Yes.
don't tell the tegus, but yeah. Well, I say that, but the male tegu is literally like I've had a puppy and I've raised it, because at the shop I was volunteering at before I moved to Devon was where I found him. So he was as a hatchling. Every day I would work with him in the shop when I wasn't busy with customers or cleaning things. I'd have him out and I'd work with him. And then I eventually bought him myself, so then I could do all of this at home. And yeah, like I say, he's literally like my little best friend. I'll open the doors, he'll come out himself, he'll walk around the container. Whereas
so the favourites for different reasons then.
So yeah, the tegu, the male tegu anyway, it's just because he's just, like I say, like my best friend. The tree monitors are just fascinating because they're intelligent, which is one thing I love. I love intelligent animals, be that chimps, octopuses, octopi, whichever. Things like that, parrots or smart reptiles, as I say, they absolutely fascinate me. I love intelligent animals.
Yeah.
And obviously they're both intelligent in different ways. The tegus are smart, but the tree monitors, they're quite good at problem solving.
Yeah,
As you
yeah.
can see, they'll use their hands to get things out. They'll use their tail as an extra limb to support themselves and catch themselves if they fall.
So, can you talk about tegus? We're sort of working out. We're doing it now. Blue tegus are different. So, I don't know enough about it. I don't know if you do. Obviously, the black and whites are Argentine. Are the blues Argentine as well? Or are they from a different part of South America?
See, I did look this up before I got my blue one. I was doing loads of research on it, but now that I don't have her anymore, it's not so much something I've looked up.
Yeah,
I believe they are from a slightly different part of South America because you can find the Argentine or the black and whites in other parts of South America, but these are the Argentine black and whites.
Yeah.
The main thing I've noticed difference-wise, other than appearance, is the blues tend to be arseholes.
Yeah.
I worked with a couple at that shop I was speaking about. Every single one, arsehole. But they lull you into a false sense of security. They'll act fine. They'll come over friendly as anything. And then they'll just bolt, latch on. And yeah, they're not as friendly as black and whites or even reds. Reds are really good as well because they're friendly like the blue and whites. The
we
black and whites,
used to have a red. We used to have a black and white and a red back in the day. And I'm pretty sure the Colombians are the Goldens, aren't they? I could be
Yeah,
wrong.
the Colombian tegus, I believe they're the golden ones. Again, they're meant to be
Arseholes.
notoriously big arseholes.
Blues Brazilian. I haven't got a clue. If someone's got Google, fact checked us. Yeah, we used to have a pair. So we had a red female bred from, I'm gonna butcher her name, Renee, something like that. Quality Reptiles over in
I know exactly who you mean.
So she bred our female, who was called Flick, and we had a male black and white called Aries. And basically, I got Aries, the male, because I wanted to start doing like reptile parties and stuff. This was pre-COVID, and I was building a collection of reptiles for like sociability. And then COVID happened, and I was like, I'm just gonna go monitors, man. So then that's sort of the Tegus. Did someone say Tegus? Someone said Tegus. Yeah, we're speaking Tegus. But yeah, so I used to have them. They're pretty cool. I know Fee missed them. Fee really liked them. Yeah, Fee's saying Flick was a pretty lizard, and I had them from. They didn't reach adulthood, and I moved them on. They're about a year and a half old. So they weren't fully grown. But Aries was a good 3 foot. He was a big lizard, but obviously they can get up to 5, sometimes 6. I've heard. But I had him from a baby. I'm pretty sure he was an import. I don't think he was UK captive bred. But yeah, he was. They're cool lizards. They're very cool lizards. Maybe one day in the future, but I knew I needed the space for my mangrove miser. But yeah, I can see why you like them. Do you do any like puzzle feeders or like any sort of different enrichment with them? Or
I haven't done it for a while, but I used to do things when I had a lot of leaf litter and things in there. I would just sort of scatter a few quail eggs or different, like if they were having fish, for example, would hide the fish in certain parts, some higher up, some down below.
yeah,
And then they would obviously have to go and find them themselves rather than just go into a plate and taking it, or from tongs and taking it. And especially with the eggs, they love to do it with the eggs because obviously quail are ground nesting birds. So
yeah.
it's quite naturalistic for them. Even if quail aren't found there, they're still going to be ground nesting birds. And tegus are notorious for being egg eaters, which is why they're such a problem in Florida, because they go and eat alligator eggs and then native reptiles' eggs and things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, they seem to absolutely love just actually having to use their tongue to find things and smell things out rather than just, oh, there's my dinner on a plate. Happy days.
Yeah. I found with mine, I hate to anthropomorphize, but my tegus seem to, I'll use the word love sparingly, but they seem to love each other. They would properly almost look sad if one was out, or because they live together. But they'd always sleep together. They would cuddle. They had spaces to sleep separate. They had space to sleep, bath separate. They had 2-3 different basking spots, but they seemed to like actually seek out each other and proper like be a couple as such.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that with these two. These two are, because like with Leachianus, they bond as a pair. I would say these two have definitely bonded. They'll bask together. If one goes for a drink, the other one's with them. If one goes to feed, the other one's with them. If one takes itself to bed, the other one follows.
Yeah.
They're always together. If one's doing something and the other one notices, comes over to investigate.
Yeah, I find that with my Ackies. They're the only animals I have that do that. My male Ackie, when I split him for when my female's laying, he doesn't do a lot. He just sits around and sulks, and then I put him back in, and he's all over the female, just like, oh, I've missed you. So yeah, I do see it. So just quickly, according to Google, blues are just a variety of black and white from Brazil, Argentina, Paraguay, Uruguay, and Bolivia. I don't fucking know. Who knows? Have you done any of the test tube feeding with the hands of your tree monitors yet?
I've tried with Verde before. With I don't have any lying around at the moment, but the small like vials. I don't know if you've got a tarantula before, but you get tarantulas in little vials. The packaging. So yeah, I would try it in like the vials that tarantulas would come in because they're quite thin for the spiderlings. Obviously, she wouldn't get her head in, but she could get her arm in easy enough. I haven't tried with the black one yet. However, I feel with its confidence, it'll probably do it near enough straight away. Whereas Verde was more so, instead of worried about the food, she was sort of like, what the fuck is this thing in my enclosure now? Like, I haven't seen that before.
Yeah, Kermit, I did it. To be fair, I slept on it. I didn't do it for ages, and then I did it with Kermit, and he just did it like straight away. And I was like, oh fuck, why have I not done this more? Like, because he just did it, and I was like, oh god, I felt so guilty because I do other enrichment bits, but I hadn't done that, and yeah, so I need to order some more test tubes that are smaller for Cada and try and do it more. So where did you get the idea for your Proscenus? And we'll go for your Beckerite because I know it's got a cool meaning behind it. So where did you get the names from your tree monitors from?
I wouldn't say I'm fluent, but I'm learning and I'm okay at speaking Spanish, and it helps me to learn my Spanish words. So Verde is green in Spanish. Oscura is dark in Spanish. Obviously, she's dark because she's a black tree monitor. Verde is green because she's a green tree monitor.
Simples.
Rapides, I think that just means rapid in Spanish because as a baby, he was like the basilisk. So I'm sure he could have ran on water when he was a baby because he was just like a racehorse. He never stopped.
So you've gone for a Spanish theme throughout your.
I have. Whereas Nunes was named after an MMA fighter I like, ironically from Brazil, not Argentina, but South America. So I went for that.
Yeah. So Fee says smart. We still need names for our Gillanai and our Kimberleys because the problem I have with animals is if I don't name them and then all of a sudden I don't feel like they're my pets. So I name everything. But
other than the morning geckos, I have named everything. Oh, and the 3 female tokes because I can't tell the females apart. I can tell the male toke apart because obviously he's missing a foot, so he's Forest Stump.
I didn't know that he was missing a foot, but I know Fee will like that Forest Stump.
Yeah, so he. It is interesting though because you'd expect, because obviously they have the adhesive toes, you'd expect that to slow him down, but he's just as fast as the rest. It does not phase him at all.
Yeah, so everyone's saying we named them on live. I know we named them on live, but I forgot what their names were. So that's clearly shit names. We had a Tristus with no tail, and Fee called it Stump Truck, like a dumper truck. So yeah.
Oh, I might be able to one up that. I had a few tropical fish before I moved down here, and I had a Swim Shady. Oh, I had loads of other names. I think it was a Tetra, so it was Petra the Tetra, Swim Shady, and I can't remember the other ones, but they were all sort of swimming related names. They were quite good. So I was especially proud of Swim Shady.
Swim Shady.
And my centipede that I had called Fiddy Centipede.
Fiddy Centipede, yeah. We have simple names over here. Called Dragon. Simple.
It's like people that call their dog though, isn't it? It's all right.
Yeah, bearded dragon called Dragon. I mean, this is going to be a boring segment of the podcast, but I don't care. So we've got Kermit, Kada. Kada means little dragon, I'm pretty sure in Japanese, so that's quite a cool name. So Kermit, Kada, Allura, which means my dream in some language, and Allura was my first ever tree monitor, which we assumed was a female, then it turned into a male, and then Allura got shortened to like a law, and then that got shortened to Woog somehow. So okay, so we got Woog, and then we got we've got Toad, the beach throat monitor, Mango, the mangrove, Mungo, the mangrove, Speck, the mangrove, Hopper, Bramble, and oh god, I'm forgetting the other one. What's its fucking name? Hopper, Bramble, and Steve, the mangrove. Then we have Gordon and Norbert, the snakes. Bumpy, the boss monitor. Mac and Sven, who's a girl, the Akis. I'm trying to go around my whole room. Kimberly's, I've forgotten their name. Awooga, that was right. So Allura got shortened to Awooga, and then Awooga got shortened to Woog. That makes more sense. Dragon, the dragon. We have Torpedo, which we called it Pedo for a little bit, and then it's changed to Torp, our tortoise. And then we have Weep and Wop. Oh, Laszlo. Oh, yeah, Laszlo the Aki. Then we have Weep and Wop, the guinea pigs, because they go weep, weep, wop, wop. So, yes, that's mine. What about yours? That's mine.
Well, I was going to say we've got Rapides and Nunes, the tegus. We've got Morning Gecko 1 through 5. I haven't named them because they're all identical. We've got Casper, my partner's dwarf boa. We've got Kempo, who's a royal python, who's my dad's. We got him from Kempton Park when they used to have reptile expos there.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got Kempo from Kempton. Obviously the tegus, Oscura the tree monitor, Verde the tree monitor. We've got Forest Stump, Baby T, and then the 3 unnamed females. The tarantulas, the Poecilotheria ones I've got mostly named after Marvel characters. So I've got Loki the Pokey and Hela the Pokey.
Yeah.
And I've got one Carabiner Versicolor or Martinique Pink Toe. So Martin, when it was a boy, or thought it was a boy, I called it Martin. Turned out to be a girl, so it changed to Tina. And yeah, they're the ones with themed sort of names, really.
So I remember now, my Kims were called Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers. And I knew Fee would like Forest Stump. So you wouldn't think it, but we have been speaking for over an hour. So let's change gears. I haven't asked you as well. Have you got a deadline you need to be off at a certain time, or you're not in an immediate rush?
I'm fine. I may need to ask my partner to run me over a drink of water or something.
No, that's fine, man. If you need to shoot and get water, or you need to shoot to use the loo, or whatever you need to do, just go. So let's change gears to the whole mental health side of things. Just because I know you're quite open, you've posted on your stories a few times. I think that's one of the main reasons we got speaking, because I think you posted a story about feeling down, and I was like, "You're not alone," and all that other shit. And people that see my Instagram post yesterday, I am currently suffering apparently with burnout, and my body had a panic attack and shut down. And I came home from work and I was pretty much dying, and Fee was like, "We need to call 111." She'll bring you some water. I'm assuming that is your beloved. If not, then that's strange.
Tegan, then yeah.
Yeah, so Tegan, if not, you've got a stalker in the chat.
I was going to say just some random person turn up.
So I'll bring you some water. But yeah, so I don't really know how to interject with it. So let's just start simply. Do you think reptiles help you with your mental health?
I think reptiles help me personally massively, but I think animals in general help people more than people who don't suffer with mental health or don't sort of have or work with animals will realise.
Yeah.
So like my partner and my mum, they love horses. When they get down, doing their horses or working with their horses is their go-to thing. Whereas me, it would probably be to cry my eyes out and then come and do the reptiles.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tegan.
She could have left the door open. It's some woman in now.
It's fine, man. Because horses can be quite what's the word? Empathetic. So they can sort of see people's feelings and stuff, can't they? and they can really like sympathize. I don't know if reptiles do that as much, like, but horses and dogs can sort of tell when their owners are a bit down.
Yeah, so they'll go off your. So I've noticed as well, like say when someone's riding a horse, if they get annoyed because the horse isn't doing what it's meant to, it'll get worse because they can sense the person's unhappy. And yeah, they very much work on how their owner is feeling with horses, I've noticed anyway. Dogs as well, like my Staffy, if I have days where I'm down or if my diabetes is bad, she will not leave my side. She'll literally lay there in bed with me until I'm up doing something, and otherwise she's just sat there making sure I'm okay.
Yeah.
Whereas the reptiles is sort of something I find takes my mind off things when I get bad, as opposed like dogs, horses, cats, more sort of cuddly comfort animals. Whereas these are something that can take my mind off, and I can sort of just go to a whole new place, a whole nother world, and just work with my animals.
Yeah. So, hello, Serpentine. You're just tuning in for the mental health side of the talk. And Fee said, this is on your Instagram. Is that a lizard tattoo you have?
Oh, yeah, it's a portrait of Verde, but it was sort of 3 separate pictures. So one of her tail, one of her body, and then one of her head and top half all formed together.
So I'll see if I can put you on big screen quickly. There we go.
The light's
it's
not great in
little
here,
bit blurry, but yeah, we can see it. Actually, what we can do, because you posted it on your Instagram, didn't you?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Yeah, so bear with me 2 seconds, everybody. It's sort of like, welcome to my podcast. It changes from mental health to lizard tattoos. Oh, wow. This is fun. I did see this, but I've liked this picture. I've seen this picture, but I forgot that you put like a donut where your nipple is.
I'm pretty sure you get banned if you show nipples on Instagram. I love my page too much to lose it over a quick flash of a nipple.
All right, let me just do this quickly. So there we go, everyone. That is. Oh, let me get rid of Fee's comment. Let me see if I can zoom in. Bear with me 2 seconds, everybody. So there we go. That is the tree monitor.
I can't stop looking at the donut. I forgot that I'd put that on there, to be fair.
We had Will Exotic's naked body at one point, one of my first podcasts. So I don't have. I'm going to get a Parenti done, and I'm going to get a tattoo of mango done. Fee likes. That's so good. So
thank you very much.
With me, I don't know. So let me just word it this way. Mango, obviously my mangrove. I personally have a connection with her that I've never experienced with any other animal. Like, the excitement and pleasure I get with my tree monitors is obviously unparalleled, but for some reason, I just have this affinity, and it's almost like I'm quite a spiritual person, and I almost feel like she came into my life to help me. Oh God. If you heard that, everyone, I'm sorry. My throat decided to make weird noises. But I feel like Mango came into my life to sort of help me on this journey that I didn't know I was about to embark on, because I got her right around the time that I started. She's probably the reason, actually, looking at this now, but I got her right around the time that I started to suffer with depression, and I went like really downhill. It's all the mangrove's fault. Fuck. I realize now. But then, like, she was almost like a constant throughout, and she was always a bitch, and it was always like really hard work to deal with her. So I knew when I had to deal with her, I had to be on my A game, which like took me out of my head, because I had to be. So like, if she was a relatively calm animal, I could have just been fucking, oh fuck this life shit, fucking in there fucking about. But then knowing that Mango would take my finger off if I wasn't. So I don't know if that's why I love her so much or what, but I can't explain it. Like, just seeing her, I have more endorphins than interacting with any of my other animals put together. So I don't know if you have a one, like you say, your Tiger is a bit of a puppy for you, or if it might just be a dog, because obviously a dog is a man's best friend. But do you relate to that at all, or not really?
I'd say if I was to come to the reptiles for a comfort animal, say my dog's out with the other dogs on a walk somewhere with my partner, for example.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I would be able to sort of come to Reptiles and sort of bring him out, because he's quite happy to just sit there and chill. Whereas, tree monitors are quite active. Even if they are, so to speak, tame, they still gonna want to go for a little bit of a walk around.
Yeah.
Whereas if I'm to sit on the floor and I get repeaters out, then it's literally, as I say, like having a dog there, but a big scaly dog that probably bites as hard as a dog as well.
Yeah. So I can't get Mango out. That's the thing. Well, I can get her out and walk around for food and stuff, but I can't touch her. I've probably touched her, I don't know, 12 times since owning her. Like, that's it. Like, I've had her 3 years because she doesn't like it, so I don't do it. But I don't know. Like, I remember I've had many a days where I've been really down, like really, really down. And I come into my reptile room and I really can't be fucked to do anything. And then I'll see my animals and I'll see a dirty water bowl, or I'll see, like, I don't know, poo, or I know someone needs to be fed. And then I'm like, okay. And then all of a sudden you start entering your flow state. And as soon as I finish doing what I need to do, I'm back in my head again. But it's almost like that needed break, isn't it?
Just that 5-minute escape from reality in the real world sometimes is all you need, really. But I totally understand that. Like I say, same as you. Sometimes I'll come in on days when I'm down and I'll just sort of be like, or maybe not even come in. I'll just sort of know that I need to do something. I'll be like, just can't be bothered at all today. But then part of me will also be like, well, they can't do it themselves. They can't go and refill their water. They can't raise their own humidity. They can't go and get the bugs out of the tub to feed themselves. So they need me to do that. So I sort of, it's good because, again, or even on my days where I have no motivation, I don't want to do anything, I still get up and do my animals because I need to.
I don't know how to word this. How can I word this? I know what I want to say, but I don't know how I can word it to make sense. Okay, I'll start with a different question first. Do you think then your animals are more, when you're in a negative mind space, do you think they're more of a blessing or more of a curse?
I'd say more of a blessing, as I say, because it gives me that escape from reality. Because it is essentially like coming into, I don't know how you feel, but going into your reptile room, or for me, going into my reptile room, is essentially like being at a zoo. Because obviously, zoos may have one colour tree monitor. Not all zoos will have two colours. Not all zoos will have tegus, the tokes, things like that. There's certain things that you can see in maybe my collection or your collection that you wouldn't be able to see in zoos. So as I say, it's sort of like a little escape and a break from reality that's sometimes needed, because no matter how like physically strong, mentally strong you are, everyone has days where things get too much for them.
Yeah, 100%. I don't think people talk about it enough. Like, I'm very open about my mental health on my platforms. But I don't know if YouTube, I'm not monetized, but I won't say the S word. Prior my S attempt, I wouldn't tell anyone that I was down. And then, like, the day I died, I was like reborn. And then I was like, fuck it, I need to share it with the world. And I almost say it stoically now, like it's nothing. I'm like, yeah, I tried to like end it, big deal. And then people are like, oh my God, you're so insensitive. But it's just the way that I am. But I'll be completely honest. I think for me, having animals, looking back on it, I think they were probably more of a curse in the moment. But like looking back on it, they were definitely a blessing, because I definitely felt like, oh, fuck's sake, I've got to do this today and I can't be bothered and I don't want to do it. But then obviously looking back in retrospect, it's like, oh, thank fuck I had to do that. Otherwise I wouldn't have been doing anything. And I literally would have just been like, no. And obviously there's no point in saying what could have or what could not have happened. But like, if I didn't have my animals and I was just like literally not being able to do anything, then like, who knows? But I think people that are in that moment and they can't be bothered to do it, I don't think blame yourself. I'm not saying blame yourself, because we all go through, like you say, we all have those days where we're like, I don't want to do anything. But I think in the long run, your animals will sort of steer the ship and pull you through it.
100%. Like, there's been days where I've just wanted to give up completely, and I've just said to my partner, like, right, that's it. Can't be bothered anymore. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to put all the animals up for sale. I'm done. And then she sort of talks me around and she's like, you've worked hard for this, you've worked for years for this is what you've wanted to have and work with. And then when I do my animals, and like I say, I get that escape from reality, I realise that if I ever was to do that, that would 100% be the biggest mistake I'll ever make, because whether it be these, the reptiles, my dog, whatever, animals have saved my life on countless occasions, because like I say, it's that escape from reality. It's just having something there that you can do to take yourself away from, pardon my French, the bullshit of real life.
That's fine, man. But yeah. I mean, I'm going to butcher this, Jonas, because I'm a terrible reader. But I think it is important to have something that brings me up, keeps me away from the shit in life, alcohol, drugs. But mental illness is there, and it will stay. But you learn to live with it, and it gets better with time. I'm 50 plus now, and feel so much better than when I was younger. With a hobby you love, it will be easier, whatever the hobby is. So I listened to something today, and it was some sort of Greek philosopher said, basically, I'm paraphrasing, but people spend too much time dreaming of what they don't, dreaming of what they don't have, and then they forget what they have now was something they used to dream about. So, for example, I've wanted tree monitors for 20 years of my life. I have 3, arguably 2 of the nicest ones in the country. And I'm too busy going, oh, what about this? Or what about that? And what about this? Because my brain just takes me. And sometimes it's important just to stop. Because I've said to Fee many a times, I'm like, I'm fucking selling everything. I can't be fucked. Because if I'm completely honest, I think reptiles are a big cause of my mental problems, purely because I want better for them, not them themselves. I just feel like I'm doing them an injustice, which I then again voice quite openly on here. But I've had days, like I said, I'll come in and I'll just get the bearded dragon out, or I'll get the Bosque out, or I'll just sit and look at Mango, and then all of a sudden my brain just goes, and I'm like, oh, So it's I don't, and then people trying to like this whole idea and concept of the antis trying to take animals away because they're like, reptiles deserve to be in the wild, even though we're cutting down the wild, but I don't care. And I don't really want to debate that because that's fucking just shit. But I don't think they take into consideration the amount of people out there, regardless if it's a reptile, a fish, a parrot, a dog, a cat, a hedgehog, a hamster, a gerbil. Like, these animals are generally saving people's lives. And I think people assume because it's not fluffy and it's not a dog or a cat, that how can they possibly? Like, how can these like horrible beasts be saving lives,
It's funny you say that. It's one of my friends on Facebook posted a reel of his snake feeding. And someone commented, oh, that's disgusting. People shouldn't keep reptiles, snakes, lizards. And they were saying, and spiders as pets. And then he was saying, what's the difference between my snake eating this and your cat going out and killing a mouse and eating it, for example? And she said, like, snakes and spiders can't show emotion, whereas cats can. And it's sort of like that. But regardless, he finds that snake brings him joy and it's something he loves. Regardless of if it eats rats, mice, McDonald's, salads, apples, regardless of what it eats, it's still something that brings someone joy. If you don't like it, you don't need to comment your 2 cents and throw that into the pot. If you don't like it, you can just, in the politest way possible, just shut up and let people enjoy things.
Yeah. Everyone's got something to say, though.
That horses, I'll work with any reptile. You can put a venomous snake in front of me, a tiny snake, a 20-foot snake, happy as Larry. You stand me behind a horse and I'll have a panic attack.
Yeah.
I don't know how to read a horse as well as I could read a reptile.
Yeah.
But just because I'm like that, I wouldn't then say to someone, well, why do you keep a horse as a pet? If it kicks you, you could die.
Yeah.
If it's something that brings someone joy, like I say, be it an animal, a hobby, a sport, a musical instrument, whatever, just let people enjoy it. Just let them do what they need to do. Everyone's got shit going on. You don't need to take that 5 minutes out of your day to be like, why have you got a pet spider? That's a horrible pet. You should kill it, burn it, step on that, all the things like that.
That's a reflection of their own insecurities, though. Like, it's taken me a long time to realize that. But if someone is commenting negatively on anything, it doesn't matter if they're going, oh, disgusting spider, or if they're just going, I don't fucking know, you're ugly, or fucking shit YouTube video, Paul. whatever. It's a reflection of themselves. Like they're insecure in their own abilities to perceive the said topic in front. So to make themselves feel better about that said subject, they feel like it's justified to comment. So when, again, I'm quite spiritual, so I'm on this spiritual journey and have been for the last 3 years. So when I take myself out of a situation, because when I'm in a situation, for example, if someone was like, oh, why do you keep lizards, that's disgusting, it's very easy for me to be like, how did you fucking know, like blah blah blah, get on the defense. But when you zoom out, you must think to yourself, like I think to myself, sorry, how sad is it that you are so narrow-minded that you can't see the bigger picture? And whether that is just I like lizards, let sleeping dogs lay, or whether that's like this whole like you go into every single like nitty-gritty bits and bobs. But it's also a lack of knowledge, you know, like the opposite of fear is just knowledge and understanding. People don't understand stuff, and again, because they're insecure and they don't understand it and they're scared, like the amount of times you see on Facebook like, oh, that snake's sizing you up, like you don't have a fucking clue. And it's very easy to sit here and be like, oh, they're fucking idiots and they're uneducated. But that doesn't make us any better. That makes us exactly the same as them. So you have to take empathy for these people because they're so narrow-minded and closed-minded. It's very easy for us. I say a lot of people are in echo chambers. It's very easy for us to sit here and be like, idiot, you know. But it's hard to actually fully perceive a situation based on a conversation online, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was reading through all the comments on that post that I say, and there was a lot of times where I did want to comment, but I thought there's no point because, like you say, it's a very narrow-minded way to look at it. I've never kept that animal. I haven't worked with it, so I'm going to have this opinion on it, and I'm not going to even consider or respect your like how it helps you or whatever.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, so like I say, I just read through it. I liked the comments that I agreed with. I ignored the ones I disagreed with, and then I just clicked off it, and I just carried on scrolling through Facebook or whatever.
Yeah. I don't know if you're still here or not, Gary, but I have to get going. I agree fully on how animals can in fact save lives. They have for me and many others I know. They help keep the balance of mental health for me. I love you all. Love you too, Gary.
Nice
But
meeting you, Gary. Love you too.
Gary's a real one, man. Gary's a sound guy. Like he's been fucking. He's been through a lifetime's worth of shit, and he's still the fucking nicest man on the planet. So, yeah, I fuck with Gary a lot. But I think I don't, like I said, I don't really know, because I was thinking about it a little bit how I wanted to sort of steer this conversation, and I didn't really know how and where it was going to go, because again, I don't like scripting stuff because it upsets my brain if I have a script and then I go off the script and then I'm like, oh fuck, Paul, you fucked up. So I don't like having a script. So is there I'll give it to you a little bit. Is there anything you want to sort of address with mental health and reptiles, or just mental health as a general? Is there like anything you want to ask me, or anything you want to like touch on, like any questions or topics you want to go through? Or
it was the same sort of thing as you asked me was the main one, is how you feel animals or reptiles have helped with your mental health. Because as I said earlier, and as we found out, we're incredibly similar. Not in only the way we tend to like sort of act and carry ourselves, but mental health wise, medical condition, we're very similar, as we found out, as I say. So I just sort of wanted to know how you found animals have affected or benefited or not been as beneficial for your mental health, whichever one's more applicable for you.
yeah, I mean, like I say, I'm honest with everything. I don't feel the need to sugarcoat shit, and haven't done for the last few years. And like I say, I think I like to look back in life, and I like to do, like nowadays, I like to look back and I like to basically assess the situation I'm in. So if I'm feeling down or like blue or depressed or anxious or whatever I'm feeling, I like to sit back and go, I think about myself as a kid and do some like introspection. And I think to myself, like 7 or 8 year old Paul would be so proud of 28-year-old Paul right now. and I go through and I say to people, I will answer your question, but I just feel like I need to do a bit of background. But I say to people, the problem is, for example, I've gained a lot of weight recently, and I'm really insecure about my body. Because I used to be about 9 stone, and now I'm 15 stone. So I've put on a fair fucking chunk of change in like 2 years. So I spent 25 years being stick thin, and now I've got like a belly. I'm nice and broad, and like sitting here on a camera, like, whoa, Paul's super sexy. But when I take my t-shirt off, I'm like really insecure. And obviously, the answer to that would just lose weight, of course. But then this whole thing of just losing weight, okay, well, let's go to the gym. Well, I don't have time for the gym because I've got the animals and I've got to deal with like fucking all these animals, and then I've got to see feed, and I've got all my jobs to do, and then I've got to deal with my son, and I've got to do like, okay, the gym's not working. Well, just I've got like a feed brought me a Olympic bar, so I could just do it at home in the reptile room, and I don't do it. I don't do it. The point I'm trying to make is I'm not exercising because I'm unhappy, but I'm not unhappy because I'm overweight. Being overweight is just one of the things that causes me to be unhappy. There's a whole umbrella, there's a whole umbrella of why I'm miserable. And I say to people, you have to find the root. And the root isn't Paul's fat. That's not the root. That's just one of the weeds on the way down to the root. And you have to unplug the root to be able to cause the problem. Otherwise, the insecurities keep coming back. So with that now sort of justified, like I say, I got Mango around the similar time that I started properly to suffer with depression. And I would drive myself to work every day crying, and I'd go to work and I'd be like, well, yeah, like I am on here, like, because which I'm now learning is probably ADHD. At the time it was depression, but nowadays I'm being diagnosed, going through diagnoses with ADHD, because I'm either on top of the world or I'm fucking crying my eyes out, and there's no middle, like there's no happy middle. I'm either like whoop, or whoop, and like I can be like so excited and happy and passionate, and then out of nowhere I'm crying my eyes out and just miserable. And I've been like that for my whole life, and I won't get into like my signs of symptoms of ADHD, but basically I'm on some sort of spectrum, like everybody is, and I'm just slightly higher than other people. So I got Mango on a whim, and I wasn't prepared for her because I was an excited kid. I was 25-ish when I got Mango. I was like, oh my god, yeah, mangrove mother, that'd be amazing. And she taught me a lot. And I would always come home and I'd be like, oh, these enclosures aren't big enough. These animals deserve better. And it would make me more sad. And Fee would be like, but you were so excited and so happy when you got them. And to be fair, like, shout out Fee as well, because she's very good at before I was quite good at being introspective, and even still to this day, but before I was good at being introspective, I think introspective is the right word, but anyway, she was very good at going, yeah, but you were so excited when you got that, or you always talk to me about these, or this is what you've always wanted to work towards. Now you're here, you're sad, and stuff like that. Because again, I would just look at the weeds and I wouldn't go to the root. And I'm not sad because I've got reptiles, or I'm not sad because I don't like my job, or I've got all these other different things under the umbrella. So I've always been good at trying to find the root, and or had good people around me to find the root. But I really struggle keeping reptiles because I don't think reptiles make. How can I word this without sounding like a dickhead? Because I've got loads. I love reptiles and I think they're incredible. Like I might dedicate my whole life to reptiles, but I think they deserve better than majority of people give them, myself included. And then that makes me feel guilty. But I don't really care about anybody else. Like, you could keep your reptiles like shit. I know you don't, hence me asking you coming on here. But let's just say, for example, I'm going to go, oh, that's shit. But that doesn't affect my life.
Yeah.
But it does make me think about my reptiles and how they deserve better. So one side of the coin is like, fucking hell, these animals deserve so much more, and I can't give them more with the numbers I have. So I'm constantly contemplating selling some to be able to upgrade others. But then all of a sudden, like, a male peach throat will come up and I'll be like, oh, fuck me, yeah, I could breed peach throats. Oh, that would be amazing. And then I start to prioritize animals that I don't have, and not that my ones are suffering, but I let mine suffer because I could upgrade them, but I look for the male peach throat. So on the one side of the coin, they don't help at all. But then on the complete opposite end of the coin, I generally don't know if I'd be here without them. If that answers your question.
It's a brilliant answer. I mean, it's sort of giving it from a perspective that you sort of wouldn't expect, I guess. A lot of people would just sort of say, like, yes, having them helps, or no, having them doesn't help. They don't go into detail and sort of specifically say the reasons that you said, which I find quite interesting, as I say.
Yeah, I like I say, the last couple of years, so Matt agrees. I'm assuming he agrees with the not enough space, but want more, because him and I speak about it quite a lot. Like I don't like blowing my own trumpet on anything. Like people are like, oh, you're so humble, and I'm just insecure. That's all it is. I'm insecure. I come across as this cocky, like, "Wee lads, yeah, tradesmen, tattoos, wee," but the reality is I'm a very insecure man. And Michael's saying this, what me and Matt talk about. So I 24/7, like, I'm like, I need to sell animals, then I can upgrade animals. But then I other than my 2 snakes, I don't want to sell anybody. So then I'm like, fuck. And then I start to go spiraling, because again, I'm assuming it's ADHD. I don't want to be that guy that's like virtue signaling. I've got ADHD because I'm not officially diagnosed yet. But I'm like, oh, fucking so happy with my reptiles. I'm the top of the world. 7-year-old me would be so proud. Like this, I've fucking done it. I've climbed the mountain. It's all good. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, everyone's in a small enclosure and they're all miserable. And I'm such a bad keeper and I need to do this and that. And then I go to the bottom of the mountain. But I think when you realize that there is no mountain and the peak doesn't exist, and as soon as you reach the peak, there's another fucking peak. And then you get to that peak and then there's another peak. And as soon as you start to realize to enjoy the journey and only control what is controllable, it helps. And like I say, I like to be introspective, if that's the right word. Basically, I like to look at my life on a zoom out platform and I go, how do I want to be perceived in this moment? How do I want to come across? What kind of person am I trying to be? What kind of reptile keeper am I trying to be? What type of father am I trying to be? What type of boyfriend am I trying to be? And I'll do this like whilst mid conversation, like there'll be like me looking into myself there. And I'm like, is this really how you want to be? And then the problem is if made up Paul that's over there is like, no, this isn't how you want to be, then all of a sudden that's just fucking, it's not like, oh, okay, thank you so much for your white. It's like, I'm a fucking piece of shit. I don't deserve this. And then I've got to work through that and then de-weed. And I've got to take all these weeds out to get to the root. And then I can go, oh, I was just sad because of this, not because of that. You know, but it's taken me, I've done a lot of work on myself, because before my mental health breakdown, my family are quite stoic in the sense of if they can't see it, it doesn't exist. So when I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, which is obviously an internal disease, they were like, but you're sure you're all right? Because I haven't got a physical arm hanging off. So they're like, so they care, but they can't see it. It doesn't exist.
So when I started, really quick, can I just run to the toilet quick?
Yeah, you're good, man.
I'll literally 2 seconds.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Thank you.
I'll carry on talking about shit. So,
right, no worries.
Right, how are we all doing anyway? Are we all enjoying me talking about my life problems? Probably not. So Matt knows the feeling. It's all me and Matt talk about. Just buy a fucking warehouse. Maybe when we're breeding all the fancy tree monitors and we can afford it, but until then, we probably can't. I won't sell anyone. Yeah, small enclosures. Yeah, life's terrible. I mean, I should have probably put this for this talk because it's therapy sessions for reptile keepers. It's very therapeutic, to be honest. Like I say, I didn't know I'm going to cough, so I'm going to mute my mic. I didn't know where this podcast would go. Like, I know Freddie's quite open about his mental health, so I was quite excited to talk about mental health, but I didn't know how and where it would go. And obviously, I'm happy to talk about mine. I'm always quite open about it. But do I need more drinks? I have drinks. Thank you, Fee. I just have a cough. It's fucking shit. And the Lucasade is making me quite gassy, so I'm like conscious that I'm gonna burp, but I'm good, thank you. Yes, good mate. I've said it before. If you need a chat, I'm always here. I appreciate you, Ben. I appreciate you. But yeah, I'm all right. Like yesterday, I had a bit of a fucking breakdown, but I'm all right. Hello.
I'm back.
You're back. No, like I say, you're good. If you got to use the loo or whatever, that's fine. But yeah, I'm quite good at looking at my situation and how I can be better. as a person. But it's taken me like 3 years of like daily work. Like people don't realize, like they go, oh, you got mental health, and then once it goes away, it goes away. But like it's like a scar, it's always there. And I used to think, so I got a demon tattooed on my back to remind me to never stop running from my demons. And then about a year and a half later, I learned that the more you run from the dark, when you eventually fall back, there's a lot more shadow to fall into. So if you learn to live with your chaos, when you fall, there's nowhere to go. You're already there. So with that being said, I was like, okay, my brain is the way my brain is. I need to deal with it rather than be like, oh, you're a piece of shit, you're a failure. So sometimes I'll be at work and my brain's like, that Stanley blade would do the job. And then I'll go, shut up. And then my brain's like, oh, yeah, sorry. And that's all it is. Whereas a couple of years ago, my brain would say it and I'll go, yeah, you're right. Yeah. So, but like I say, I've done daily work. I do daily work in the mental gym. And it's fucking hard, mate. I'm sure you know it's fucking hard.
100%. Like, obviously, we both got medical conditions. They're quite different. But with my diabetes, so basically in October 2021, I was hospitalised for something called DKA, which is diabetic ketoacidosis. Which is essentially just my body's producing too much acid. There's too much acid in my blood as well. It got to the point where my kidneys or my liver, I can't remember which one, was shutting down. I was having x-rays on all my organs. I was in hospital for like a week and a half. And then since then, my diabetes has been a nightmare. No matter how many injections I do, how on top of it I stay, what I eat, no matter what, it's either up here, down here. It's never just level. It's never brilliant. It's always too high, too low, up, down, up, down. And then when it's like that, it affects my mental health. Or if, say, I try really hard to look after it and it still shows my blood sugars have stayed high, I'll then start beating myself up thinking, why is it doing this? Why can't I just, like, as I'm trying my hardest and things aren't working the way I want them to. I'm not getting any results from working this hard, so what's the point?
Yeah.
And I totally get what you mean about having that voice. I have it all the time where it sort of says, like, well, you try this hard to like, do well with your diabetes and it's not working, so what's the point in doing it today? And then what's the point in doing it tomorrow? And it would be easy enough to just stop doing that. But obviously, I know I have my dogs, my reptiles to look after. I'm like you said as well, would 10-year-old me, like if they looked and saw that the animals I have now, they wouldn't believe it's the same person. And like even like my family are amazing. I'm pretty sure because I've got 3 sisters. I've got a brother, brother-in-law, sister-in-law, nieces, nephews, all sorts. All of those are incredibly supportive to me when I need it. My partner's been an absolute godsend, as I say. But I'd say without those and without the animal, without the people around me, so my family, my partner, I wouldn't have the animals. If I didn't have my animals, I don't know if I would be sat in this position right now, either talking to you or sat here at all.
Yeah.
But I'm just so grateful for the people I've got. I'm grateful I've got you in my life I can talk to because, as I say, we're very similar. We've both got Matthew. We've got the incredible people we meet in the hobby.
Yeah.
Because as much of a bad name as some people in the hobby get, or as the hobby gets, there are some incredible people that are just one of a kind and they're true friends. Even though we've never met, I still consider you a true friend. And I know if I needed to turn around and talk to someone, I can drop you a message anytime. And I hope you know the same goes for you to me.
Yeah, no, I think the biggest problem with it is, though, no one ever does. That's the problem. Like, it's all well and good. And this isn't a discredit to anybody. Because I always say to people, message me. But the reality is when you're down, you never message people.
100%.
Why do you think that is?
Personally, with me, so I've got BPD, which is borderline personality disorder, which is also known as emotionally unstable personality disorder. One of the traits of that is to constantly second guess people around you, push people around you away to see if they'll stay. So I'll try and push my family away. I'll just have nothing to do with me anymore. It's fine. You don't need me in your life. It's fine. Same thing to my partner and to my friends. So one of the reasons I won't talk to people is because I don't mean to do it, but it is a way of me sort of, oh, well, they didn't check up on me, so they don't care. Or it's a way of me sort of seeing if people will check up on me without me having to reach out. But I mean, sometimes I will reach out, sometimes I won't. That's the problem. I know they
Yeah.
say personality disorders aren't like it's different people living in there, but to a certain degree it is. Because sometimes, like I say, sometimes I'll be happy to talk to people about my mental health. I'll reach out for help. Other times I'll isolate myself completely. I won't talk to friends. I won't talk to family. The only thing I'll get up and do is my animals.
Yeah.
And then, as I say, other days I'll sort of be in the middle. Like I'll sort of hint that I'm not doing great, but I won't tell people. But I think a lot of the time, because it's not just men that don't talk, women don't talk as well when they suffer. And I think a lot of people with mental health seem to feel that they're a burden on others, especially if they're turning to them to help them with problems.
Yeah, for sure.
And I know for a fact, I don't know if you feel the same, but as a man, even if it is sort of a bit of a primitive, let's say, way to look at it, men are sort of meant to be able to handle your shit, man up, as everyone says.
Yeah. For me, so the family I come from aren't so good with mental health, and they're not particularly supportive. But again, in my retrospectful mind, I don't really care now. At the time, it was like, why can't you just understand that I'm not okay?
Yeah.
But now I don't really care because, again, I only control the controllable and I can't control their feelings. So I don't get my brain caught up in it. But with that being said, my dad's a big hard cunt. I probably shouldn't say cunt on air, but we said it twice. But yeah, he's like a hard proper fella, like grafter, geezer, same as my granddad and my uncles, and arguably my brother. And I cry at Disney films. So here we are. But yeah, I mean, I got beaten up with quite badly at 12. I was jumped and I didn't have a clue how to defend myself. So I started boxing. And then I got quite good and I took to it like a duck to water and I was like, fucking hell, yeah. And then I'll be completely honest, at like 16, 17, 18 and knowing how to fight and knocking a couple of people out, I was like, I'm the fucking man. And I went down this like dark hole of drinking at 18, getting emotional, fighting. And then I was like, this is fucking shit. So I stopped that quite quickly. And then again, your body does things to bring you back in check. And for me, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. So that like kicked me in the just quickly. Appreciate you stopping in, Jonas. I hope you have a good day at work, mate. Thank you for stopping in. I appreciate you and your wisdom over messages as always. But yeah, so I was diagnosed with Crohn's and I had to stop boxing because being punched in the stomach probably wasn't a good idea anymore because I had like obviously medical issues. And then it was very much like I knew I had problems before I was officially diagnosed, but you can't diagnose it without basically having a camera up the back. And I was a bit nervous for that shit, and no one sort of brought it to my attention that it could be this. Long story short, I'd had it since about 11, and I was diagnosed at 21. So I went 10 years undiagnosed. And then when I was first diagnosed, it was very much like, oh, fucking hell, why me? Why have I got to have this lifelong disease? It's incurable. Like, boo-hoo, poor Paul. And then I did a year of like drugs and trying to eat healthy and be better and this, that, and the other. And after the year, I was feeling so much better in myself. I was like, fucking yeah, like I can not beat it because it won't go away, but I can keep this at bay. Went back in for another colonoscopy, so another camera, and they're like, yeah, it's got worse. You've got X, Y, and Z more problems. I was like, motherfucker. And that was a big like, shit, this isn't going away, is it? Then for a couple of years, I was a bit like, oh, fucking hell, this is shit. Like, boo-hoo, poor me. I have to use the toilet all the time. And sometimes I go to jobs, like I'm an electrician, so I work on building sites, and sometimes there's no toilet. And then my anxiety is like, you're going to shit yourself, you're going to shit yourself, you're going to shit yourself. Because I have, and I probably will again. I've got a bowel disease that I can't control. So, yay. But again, I got to the point where I was like, I can't control it. It is what it is. I have it. Like, I can sit and sulk about it and cry about it. And don't get me wrong, sometimes I do. Sometimes, especially when I'm like having a flare up and I'm off work for 10 days in fucking agony, and then I got no money because I'm not at work, and then I stress because I've got no money and I can't see. You know what I mean? So it happens, but I can take it by the horns and go, hey, I suffer with this. Yeah, it's shit. And I've met so many people that have it and they go, well, you talk about it like it's nothing. And I'm like, yeah, but there's no point in talking about it like it's the end of the world, because one, there are people that are worse off, which I don't like to compare, because the worst thing that happened in the world is the worst thing that's happened in your world. Because as much as someone might have Crohn's 10 times worse than mine, I don't have that. So for me, it's irrelevant. It's obviously shit for them, but it's
you
irrelevant.
can't do
for me.
comparative suffering.
No. Yeah.
Suffering.
Yeah. So I choose to try and put a positive spin on things. Like, my depression was one of the best things that's ever happened to me, because it made me face the shit that I'd been dealing with for 25 years. And it's made me such a fucking stronger individual for it. And I don't regret it. I genuinely believe everything in life there's a lesson. Like, if I could go back and say you never ever had depression ever again, like if you go back in time and you never had the depression, I wouldn't change it, because now I'm still in a bad place, but I'm in a much better place. And the lessons I've learned from that are so valuable. And I know for a fact I've saved at least 3 people. And I'm not saying saving them from the inevitable like doom, but I've helped at least 3 people that I know of genuinely come out to be like. One was on like just a quick story. I was on my best mate's stag do a couple of years ago, and I was in a really bad place because I don't drink anymore at all. I stopped drinking around 20. I'm not teetotal. If I want to drink, I'll drink, but I just don't drink. Because when I'm drunk, I'm a dickhead. Like, I'm a happy drunk, but then someone looks at me funny and I just fucking, probably not so much anymore, but I used to be a fucking angry little prick. So I was aware of that, and I don't try and hide it, unless I'm not proud of it, but you grow and evolve as a human. So we were out, I was drunk, had no sleep. We'd just been out sea fishing, and I basically got really seasick. And so I had no sleep. I'd been sick loads, and no fucking and drinking, perfect storm just to be in a bad headspace. About 4 o'clock in the morning, we go outside and I see this guy sat on the floor, and it's so cliche, but a depressed person can tell a depressed person. And I was like, what's up? And he was like, oh, nothing, man, like nothing. So I helped him to his feet, and he was like, what's up with you? And I went, well, Crohn's, depression, this, like unloading. And he was like, how can you say it so like openly? I was like, they're just fucking stories, mate. Like, my spiritual teacher, I've done a lot of therapy, been to a lot of therapy and therapy groups and stuff. And I was going to therapy at the time, and I was going to therapy groups at the time. I was like, my spiritual teacher told me it's just stories, and I can choose when I close the paragraph whenever I want, because they're just stories. Like, I have full control over my narrative. So they mean fuck all, they're stories. And the less I give them power, the less they impact my life. And anyway, we're having this conversation. He starts crying. And I'm like, what's up? And again, I'm drunk, so I'm probably being a bit more fucking blasé than I am now. I was like, what's up? And he's like, oh man, I'm suffering with depression. And I don't know how to tell anyone. And I talk with my hands quite a lot. So I'm talking with my hands. This guy's crying. His mate comes out, and all he sees is me talking with my hands and his best friend crying. So he just assumes I'm having a go at him, comes over to me, pushes me against the wall. And I'm normally a dickhead. I would have just headbutted him, but for some reason I didn't. And I was just like, what the fuck? Like, whoa. Because I was probably in my place of peace and love and stuff. And this guy was like, get off him. This brave C word is the reason I can say I'm depressed, and shouts it like out in this strip in Bournemouth at like 4 a.m. And then the best friend starts crying, and he's like, I knew you were depressed, but I didn't know how to tell you. And then the friend's crying. He's like, I didn't want to be a burden. And then all 3 of us are crying and like hugging. And my friends are like, yeah, fuck that. Let's just stop. But like, and he was like, oh, you're so brave to me. I'm not brave. Like, I'm just sharing stories. That's all they are, is story. And that can come across as 2 ways. That can come across, oh yeah, fucking high and mighty Paul, or that can come across like fair fucking play Paul. And I don't care, because I know my intentions are pure. So again, I don't get caught up in the nonsense of the world, you know. But yeah,
Totally get that. I also feel like some people sort of get desensitized to it. Obviously, some people, like that person you were talking about, it sounds like it was quite a new sort of discovery for them being
yeah, it was,
depressed.
yeah, it was.
Whereas when you sort of lived with it for a while, you do become desensitized to it. So you do tend to just say it just quite blasé. People are like, "How you doing?" You'd be like, "I was in hospital the other week. I done this, that, the other to myself," and they're just like, "How are you so fine with it?" And it's just like, it
It is what it
happens
is.
every week. It goes through my head 24/7. Like, it's not like strange for me. Like, for other people, they hear it and they're sort of like, "Did you really just joke about that?" And I'm like, "No, I'm being serious. That's how I feel." It's just so normal and everyday for me that I can just say it like I'm just describing what I had for lunch last week. Right?
Yeah.
It's as easy as that. But I mean, like, I totally get what you're saying, and especially with helping people. I will help as many people as I can. I'll help everyone that I can, whether I like the person or not. If someone reaches out to me and they're struggling, I will try and help them. But when it comes to following that advice,
Yeah.
I will not do it.
Yeah.
I won't reach out to people when I need it. I won't go and get help. I won't do X, Y, Z to make it better. But I will help every other person to make it better for them.
I'm the same.
Because that's another thing with depressed people. We're so compassionate towards others for the most part, but towards ourselves, there's just no. Especially when you get down, you know there's not a lot of love for yourself. You'll hate yourself, hate the way you look, hate the way you dress, or the things you're interested in, or whatever. But then someone else can come up to you, and you'll just be like, "Oh no, it's fine. It's not weird that you like X, Y, Z. It's fine." Like, and you'll help them, and you've given them perfect advice that will apply to yourself. But your brain just goes, "No, not doing it."
Yeah, I relate to that a lot. I was the same with my autism, mate. I was diagnosed at 34. It hits you hard, so I know what you feel. Thank you for sharing, Ben. And I think the more that you've probably found this yourself, but the more that I've shared that I'm not okay, the more that other people go, not to be like, "Oh, me too," but to be like, "Oh, like, thank you for sharing. I feel comfortable enough to now say, yeah, me too." So the more open you become with your mental health, regardless if it comes across blasé or not, I think people do feel safer when they're in an environment where they know the theme is vulnerability.
That's a big thing, I think, with a lot of mental health issues, though, because when I was diagnosed with my personality disorder, I started doing something called DBT, which is dialectic behavioral therapy, whatever, I can't say it.
Yeah.
And it was basically just a room full of people with the same personality disorder, and we'd work out different coping strategies, different methods to help deal with this situation, just common situations for people that suffer with it.
Yeah.
And as much as I learned there or whatever, nothing helped me more than knowing I wasn't the only one that reacted a certain way. Because, like you said, when you were talking to that guy and you all started crying, or when you used to go to work and you'd be crying, the smallest thing can happen. Like, I'll arrange to go and take my dogs for a walk, and then it will rain and it can't happen. And for me, that will be the end of the world. I will be in hysterics, crying my eyes out, hyperventilating, ready to just give up with everything. 2 minutes later, nothing's happened, don't feel any emotion, and I feel fine.
Yeah.
So when I was first experiencing that, it was honestly terrifying, because I'm not going to lie, when I was first diagnosed and before I was diagnosed, when I didn't feel anything, I would often hurt myself to feel something, because I wasn't feeling anything emotionally or internally or whatever. So I would try and feel something physically.
Yeah.
And then again, I'd feel like such a freak. It would be 30 degrees in summer. I'd have a jumper on because I wouldn't want people to see my arms. I'd be in trousers because I want people to see my legs. And then I went to these DBT groups and I realised there are a lot of other people in the same boat. Maybe not to the same extent, maybe worse, whichever. But then knowing that you're not alone is one of the biggest things for people with mental health, because obviously feeling like you're alone. That's another reason why people won't talk, I think.
Yeah.
Because especially if, say, you're in a group of 5 friends and you've all got some like a mental health issue, but none of you have spoken to each other. To be the first person to speak out, you're going to think, oh, well, they're going to think that I'm weak if I'm the one who speaks out first.
Yeah.
But people do need to realise it's not weak to speak out. It's not weak to ask for help. It's not weak to need help.
No. Makes you stronger, man.
100%. Like, I'm not afraid to admit, like I say, if I'm honest, I cry near enough every day at one thing or another.
Yeah.
If it's not something sad, it'll be something happy.
Yeah.
Like, I saw some ducks the other day crossing the road and I was shitting myself they were going to get hit. And instead, they went and sat in a tiny little puddle under a bush because it had been raining so much.
Yeah.
And I found it so sweet that they'd found a puddle to go in. I started tearing up.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, like, I spent so many years going around with this persona that I'm big and hard and don't feel emotion. I'm not worried about this, that, and the other. But really, all it took was a couple ducks to find a nice puddle, and I'm near enough crying because I'm happy for them.
Yeah, I can relate to that, mate, for sure.
Being emotional it can be frustrating, don't get me wrong, but there's nothing wrong with it at all.
Yeah,
and I've learned that.
My best friend outside of the reptile hobby, so I had already come out that I'm suffering with depression and bits and bobs, and I'm really down and like had a few bad spells with it. And fast forward like 6 to 8 months, I'm on the healing process, and my best friend came over to help me move some vivs, and we just got talking. He was like, "Oh, how are you doing now?" Blah blah blah. Just got talking, and then out of nowhere, he just starts crying. I'm like, "What the fuck? What's fucking wrong?" And we're sense of humor that you can just joke about everything. Like, there's no fucking. So I'm like, "What the fuck's up with you?" And he basically admits that he's suffering with depression, this, that, and the other for X, Y, and Z reason. I won't go into it too much because it's his story and his life. And I could see a clear path to redemption for him in this instance from all the work that I'd been doing. And at the time, I was very much like, "You got to do this and it'll fix it." And now I know, obviously, it's a bit insensitive and sometimes you just need to listen. And I'm learning to be a better listener. Eventually, he took my advice and it fixed his problem. And that's not me being like, "Oh, I'm a fucking guru." But like, I just knew from all the work that I've done and all the people that I'd spoken to, because his was situational depression. He was depressed because of something rather than just a chemical imbalance. There was something happening in his life that he was depressed about. So I said to him, "You just change that thing in your life, you'll be happy days." And he was like, "Oh, it's not that simple." Anyway, but even then, you know, like, he's my best friend, I've been best friends for fucking, I don't even know, 15, 18 years. Him knowing how badly I was suffering. And then he was like, "I didn't want to tell you because I know that you were suffering and I didn't want to add burdens to you." And I was just like, "What the fuck, man?" Like, I live for this shit. Like, but it just goes to show, like, we and women, like you say, admittedly, I'm not saying it's just a men thing, but we as men, especially when you're supposed to be the man of the house and when you're supposed to be a provider, and you just feel like a fucking failure as a human because you can't even wake up. It's hard, man. It's hard. I don't care what anyone says. It's fucking. And I had a job once. We've got a couple of comments from Ben, so I'll get to your comments in just a second, Ben. But I had a job once, and it was a job for myself, and it was one of the biggest jobs I had for myself. I had to basically rewire this whole kitchen and do this and shit. And the guy there was like talking about the neighbor that commits suicide. And they were like, what were they like? They were like, "Oh, two houses up the road, Mrs. Smith or Mr. Smith, whatever the fuck." That obviously wasn't their name, but let's just say Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith committed suicide out, coward's way out. And at the time, I'd sort of just survived mine. And I just led straight in there and I was like, "Fucking coward, am I?" And he's like, "What?" And I was like, "People that like try and take their own lives, fucking cowards." Like, now that you've got one standing in front of you, am I a fucking coward, am I? And again, I have a temper. And I'm not going to try it. And I don't like the fact I do. And little outside Paul was like, "Nope, be the big person. Be the big person." I'm like, you shut your fucking mouth. I've got this. And he was like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, I tried 3 weeks ago, whatever it was. Now I'm in front of you. Like, and he was like, oh, it's not everyone. Blah, blah, blah. I was like, yeah, fucking backtracking now. And I was like, see your job. Fuck your job. Put all my tools in a van and I just left. And I was like, I'm happy. Like, that was nice. Like, it doesn't need any more than that. Like, but now, 3 years on in my journey, I'd be like, well, tell me why you feel about that. Explain how I felt in that situation. And then be like, have you ever felt like that? And then they'd be like, no. And I'm like, well, consider yourself fucking lucky. Like, because I'm learning and I'm growing and I'm healing. So at the time, I was just this anger. Like, you don't know. But now I'm like, let me try and show you, you know?
Yeah.
So it's all about like learning and growing. That's like, see what a couple of comments. It doesn't help if only makes things worth. Sorry, I couldn't from in the first comment. Sorry, I couldn't from his in the first comment. I'm sorry, Jack. I'm not really with you. Fee saying it cleanses the soul, crying at ducks in a puddle. Fee will cry at absolutely everything. She'll be watching something on like TikTok or some shit. I'm like, are you crying? She's like, no. I'm like, is it sad?
That's like my partner as well.
And she's like, no, it's sad.
We send each other things. Like, if people say they're proud of me, like my family or my partner, they say they're proud of me, always makes me well up.
Yeah.
Because I always want to do the best as I can. I don't care about doing well for myself. If I'm doing well for my animals, my family, my girlfriend, and my friends, then I'm happy.
Yeah, man.
But again, I think you can relate. People that do suffer with depression, a lot of the time they will do things more so for others than themselves. Yeah,
people pleasers, mate. People pleasers, which I'm trying to stop being because it causes me to have seizures. I had a psychotic episode 2 weeks ago and went to the crisis team in hospital. I was arrested 5 days later. Shit, Ben. Hope you're all right, mate. So I never use them again. Have I read that right? Psychotic, yeah. So we'll never use them again, knowing everything goes. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah, everything goes through a piece. Yeah, that's shit, mate. I'm okay for you. Yeah, honestly, Ben, mate, reach out to me if you ever need someone just to fucking vent at. Just reach out to me. I'm happy to listen to all your shit.
I was going to say, if you have an Instagram account, feel free to drop me a message anytime.
Yeah, I'm glad. Yes, I go to see them fortnightly. Honestly, one of the best things I ever did was went to therapy and group therapy. Like, it changed my. I used to go to a group therapy which was put on for free by a man that runs a charity down my neck of the woods, and there was like 4 or 5 men, and I say men like I'm fucking 30 next year, but in my head, I'm not a man yet. I'm a young man, and there was like all these men there. And again, where I'm so open with everything, I'm just sitting, blah, 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 talking about my problems. And they'd all be like, what the fuck is this kid? Like, coming in, fucking talking about it like it's nothing. Like, we're all fucking struggling to pay fucking rent or struggling being a dad or our fucking partner's just died or whatever. And the more that we all got to know each other, the more that they were like, we can fucking take so much from just being open. And by the end of this, like, group therapies with these blokes, they were all like, sharing all their shit, and they were like, oh, it feels so fucking good just to be like, I'm fucking sad, or I feel like a failure, you know?
Well, like I said, that's what helped me with my DBT therapy. Knowing that there was other people in the same boat with the same situation or felt the same way made me realise I wasn't such or as much of the freak that I thought I was. There was other people in the same boat.
Yeah, for sure. The problem is with mental health, like, especially now that I'm fat, looking at me, you'd think I'm generally just a healthy, little bit overweight, dad bod kind of guy. That's it. Like, you would never assume there's anything wrong with me, when in fact I've got like 3 or 4 different labels that society want to put on me. And when people go, you're right, like the start of this podcast, yeah, mate, you, like, no one's fucking all right. Everyone's lying.
Everyone's got a minimum of one thing niggling at them, regardless of what's going on in their life. They could be having the best week ever. There'll still be something niggling at them or biting at their heels. Whether it's one small thing, one massive thing, or 10 small things, 10 massive things, there's always something there.
And we as humans, we like to focus on the negative. We forget the positives. We forget all these amazing reptiles that we have acquired in our life. We forget about the incredible partners, friends, families, you know, jobs. People are in jobs that they love, like hobbies, interests. We forget all of that. And all of a sudden, everything becomes doom and gloom for one little thing when you might even only have two positives in one point in time, but the two positives are enough to lean into. You know, like sometimes there are situations where, again, I sound a bit insensitive saying this, but I don't really care. There's always a lesson, and the lesson might be negative. Like, I'm not saying your hardships are justified, but for me personally, if you can take a lesson out of these hardships, and you might not know the answer for 50 years, but eventually that thing that you've been through will teach you something. And whether it just teaches you to never fucking do that again, for example, me drinking, don't drink, or whether that's me going on this journey of understanding my brain 100% and knowing exactly how I tick. You know, like, it's not easy. I'm not saying, oh yeah, just teach you lessons, but it won't. Life doesn't get better. You have to make it better. And as someone with mental health, I think a lot of people do it anyway, but we chase dopamine hits and, oh, new reptile. Eventually that new reptile is not a new reptile. So you go back to your plateau, and then I don't fucking know. Like, my gill and I are in too small of an enclosure. Dip. Mangrove's too small of an enclosure. Dip. Wow, this mangrove looks really nice today. Peak. But people forget it's called basically the hedonic treadmill. So you're fucking up and down all the time. But people forget there's a base, and you need to raise the base rather than chase the peaks. You just raise the base so the peaks are higher, you know, and your state of flux is better than normal, because otherwise you're constantly just fucking swinging backwards and forwards, especially if you suffer, like, say, sounds like us, you're either here or here. If you can raise the bar and try and get in the middle a bit more, it makes life a lot easier. But again, I'm in the mental gym daily, man. It's fucking hard work.
No, I was going to say that sounds very applicable to me as well, because like when I was getting Veer Day, I knew I was getting her. I was up here. The day I was getting her, I was up here. As soon as I'd got her and I'd put her in the enclosure, and I realised, yes, I have her now, but I don't have anything to look forward to, as in nothing coming up, like I'm not getting anything, for example. Like, my body doesn't process the fact I've got my dream animal. It just crashes. So like, I was looking forward to getting the black one. Yeah. Absolutely buzzing. The day I got it, happiest I've been probably since I got Veer Day.
Yeah.
And then the next day, even though like the feeding was going well, she was climbing on my arm and all sorts, I was still like, what have I got to look forward to now?
Yeah.
And it's sort of like, I always want to have something to look forward to, otherwise I end up getting that crashing. But I even realise it myself, saying it now as well. I need to just take the time to appreciate the things I've got.
Yeah, man.
And rather than just be like, oh, well, what else is there to get? It doesn't matter what there is to get. I'm not even 24. I'm 25 in September, so I'm still 24. Still got plenty of time left. Touch wood, fingers crossed. To achieve and get the other things that I want. I don't have to sit there and cry because I'm not getting a blue tree monitor tomorrow. I don't have to cry because I haven't got another reptile container yet. I've got all the time in the world, essentially, to get it. I've got more time left than the time I've spent on the earth already, hopefully. So
yeah, definitely. But that's what I was saying earlier. The destination doesn't exist, because if your destination, for example, let's just say, is getting a blue tree, that's the next thing in your brain, blue tree. Once you get the blue tree, like you've just said yourself, you're like, fuck, what's next? So the destination doesn't exist because there's always another. So just focus on the journey. Like, one day, 2 years, 2 weeks, 20 years, I'm going to have a blue tree. But for right now, it's easier said than done, of course. Like, I had a fucking reality check the other day. So I rewatched a video I made on YouTube, which I was very grateful I did it, and I didn't realize until recently. But I rewatched my YouTube video that I made on getting the 5 mangrove monitors. Like, I got 5 dream lizards, or whatever the fuck I called it. So in that video, I can see how fucking excited I am. And I am elated with these mangroves, and I'm on top of the world. Now they're just part of the furniture. Still love them, still great, still like wow. But they're just my mangroves. So, and especially because I don't see them, it's very hard to feel attached to them. But I rewatched this video, and I was like, I was so happy. Like, where's that gone? And then again, I like to de-weed my garden and find the roots. And I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, I just take all this shit for granted because I'm like, they need to get bigger, and I need to breed them, and then they need to do this, and then I need to do that, and then I need to get this. And I mean, so you still remember the day I got the mangroves, yeah. But I'm very guilty for being like. So, for example, like just quickly, I'm gonna just touch on this before I get into a story. Totally agree, mate. Venting does help, certainly to an extent, but I do tend to. We all hold back the dark shit, mate. But trust me, there'll be no judgment from myself or Freddie. So, reach out to us, even if you just vent and you just say, "Look, I just want someone to listen. I don't want fucking advice." Blah 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 blah. I'm happy for you to blow up my DMs. Like anybody listening to this shit, blow up my DMs.
So I say, drop me a message anytime, and I'm sure Paul said the same for him.
But like when I got the green tree, this is again the lessons. Everything has a lesson, and if you don't take the lessons from life, then you'll constantly be going back to the same places. And I've been to this place several times, but I've learnt the lesson now. So the first time I was taught it in the sense of reptiles, I got my green tree, Allura, my dream lizard that I've wanted. So I got her at 24, 25. I've wanted one since I was 7. So like best part of 18 years, I've wanted this lizard. Got one. Literally within the space of like 2 weeks, a male came up, and I was like, this is fucking mind-boggling. And I had some spare money because, you know, things were in lockdown and I just not going out, not spending money. Everyone had a bit of spare money, so I was like, I can afford this male. And I said to Fee about it, and I was like, that's all my little bit of savings gone. But she was like, go for it. Like you've always wanted them, go for it. So I got the male, kept them separate for a little bit, both happy, healthy. Introduced them. Everything was going great. They got on. They were locking. The female was even showing signs of vitellogenesis and all this other shit. Anyway, long story short, come home one day from work. The female is locked with the male. I'm like, oh, okay, sometimes they do that. It's a dominance thing. I saw the hemipene retract into the quaker of the female. I was like, they're fucking 2 males. And rather than going, oh, well, I have 2 stunning examples of 2 different locality Proscenus, I was like, oh, fuck, I need a female. I need to breed. And obviously no females came up. A female did come up. It was a fucking lot of money. I was going to go for it. And then I didn't in the end for reasons I'm not going to share on the podcast. But long story short, I didn't go for the female. And then it was at that moment I was like, okay, I need to sit back and think about 7-year-old me. Like, I've just not enjoyed having tree monitors for the last 6 months because I've been so hell-bent on getting a fucking female. And then I got the baby from Matt in September last year. And I don't know if she's a boy or a girl. Am I worried that it's a boy and I'll have 3 males that I'm not going to sell? Yes. But am I not thinking about it because I'm just enjoying having a beautiful, perfect, healthy, captive bred green tree monitor from a great mate? Yeah. Like, if she's a girl, fucking amazing. But if she's a boy, big deal. It is what it is. Like, I've just got 3 boys then. Like, I'm not interested in projects. I just keep pets, you know. But for the longest time, I was chasing projects and I was chasing, not even for money, generally not for money, but like, I want to do this for me and it's going to be great. And I justify it for these reasons. Like, for example, breeding mangroves. I'm the closest person in the UK that's ever been to breeding mangroves. And I feel like I have this chip on my shoulder. Like, I need to do it. But why do I need to do it? Like, it'd be cool to do it, but I don't need to do it. Stop justifying it, Paul. Get out your fucking own way and enjoy the mangroves, if that makes sense.
No, I mean, like I say, I totally get it. Like I say, I wasn't worried to start with because I know you shouldn't assume, but I just assumed that Viaday was a female. Now I'm not too sure, but at the same time, I'm not worried because, like I say, I've got the black one, I've got the green one. I can study the behaviour differences between the 2 of them. And if the opportunity comes up for me to finally get Viaday sex and then get the opposite sex, brilliant. If not, I was like you were saying, I'm still an animal that 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old me would have never in a million years believed they owned or
just
would own.
out when you see one, yeah.
Even 2 years ago, when I was living on my own in my own flat, obviously that was before COVID or the cost of living and everything. I never thought I'd own one. But now, obviously, having all this land, the solar panels that power the container, I don't so much have to worry about paying my ridiculously extortionate amount of rent that I paid for my flat, and then all my electric, and then gas, and then water, and then internet and everything.
Council tax, like more bills,
Just everything,
bills,
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna lie, I totally realise how blessed I am to be able to have my parents have bought this land and give me the opportunity to live here. And I do still help them out with things like fuel for running the generator we have, or for dog food, because obviously I've got dogs, my parents have dogs, so we all just sort of chip in together. And like I say, I'm just blessed to be able to have that, because I know a lot of people would bloody kill to be in that position, to be able to have, one, some of the animals I do, two, to be in the situation that I'm in.
I think when you do, it's hard because obviously, like I say, when you're in a negative mindset, like I don't have a shit day at work and then come home and go, well, I've got loads of amazing animals. Like you just don't do it. It's true, I do. You know, like arguably one of the best monitor collections in the UK. Like I've had, and if I haven't got it, I've had it. You know, for the most part, outside of them goddamn Michelin that I want, but soon. But you know what I mean? Like I don't do that. I don't go, oh, you're so lucky. Because like I could only have ever dreamed having half the shit that I have. Like generally, like I'm not like same as yourself. I'm not just saying it. And now I've got the largest collection of mangrove monitors in the UK. And I take it for granted because I let myself get it in my way. And I'm like, oh fucking boo-hoo, poor Paul. Like I say, when you sit back and go, like it's same as this podcast, man. Like when I started this shit, just over a year ago, like a year and 15 days ago or some shit, I started my YouTube channel. The start of May I started, so 5th of May. What are we today? So yeah, it's 9 days, a year and 9 days. I was like, oh, it's gonna be shit. No one's gonna listen. No one's gonna watch. But I want to try and help lizards. And now, like, I'm so close to being monetized. I've got over 1,400 subs. I've just hit fucking 12.5K on Instagram. And it's like, fuck. Like, when I started, I was like, oh, no one's going to fucking care. No one's going to. And you get in your own way. And someone messaged me on Instagram the other day and they were like, how do I get so many followers? And I was like, post every day. And then they were like, oh, that's a lot of effort. And I was like, then you won't get followers. And they were like, well, well, yeah, but this is it. But the people. But again, I look out. I don't go, well, you're a dickhead, because I'd like to treat every single person like they know nothing. And I don't mean that condescendingly, but then that way I won't judge anybody.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, what do you expect? And then they're like, well, how have you got so many followers? Like, because I think I was on like 8,000. I was like, posted every day. Well, how long does that take? I've been doing it for about a year. You've posted every single day for a year? Yeah, more or less every single day, yeah. Oh, I don't know if I'm going to do that. And then I literally said, well, you don't want it that badly, then do you? It's like I posted the live podcast every Sunday and I posted a YouTube video for Wednesday. I was talking to someone who is a YouTuber in the UK. He's like, fucking hell, that's a lot. And I was like, but I want it. But then in return, yesterday, my body was like, slow the fuck down, Paul. And I had like a bit of a fucking burnout fucking crash. So, you know, it's the lesser of two evils. Like, when I zoom out, I'm like, fucking, I'm so grateful for like this platform and the people hanging out and chat. You know, you and I have been talking about fucking mental health for the last hour, and 12 people have had the courtesy to stay here. Like, this is a reptile channel, you know. And if 12 people turned up at my house, I'd be like, fucking hell, that's so many. Because like I was speaking to, I won't say who, but I was speaking to someone today who I'm really close with in the reptile world, saying because my Instagram's just hit, I've reached 1 million accounts in 30 days on my Instagram, which is kind of surreal. So I sent it.
That's mad.
Yeah, admittedly, it's one video that's gone viral, but we move. And it's gained me a lot of followers. It's gained me like 3,000 followers. So now I'm on like 12.5, 12.6. And he was like, fucking hell, that must be all nice. I was like, I'll be completely honest, I couldn't give a fuck. about the 12.6. It's nice because when I message people to come on the podcast, they're going to look at my Instagram and go, wow, he's got lots of followers. So I'll be able to get better people for the podcast. But what I care about is like the local little, the fellowship of the Varanus. Every Sunday, these people turn up to listen to me and you and my guest talk about shit. Because I don't script any of it. I just fucking, it's off the dome. So it's not even fucking well done. You know what I mean? And that to me, but then that gets me in my head as well, because I feel like it's a lot of pressure. You know what I mean? And then I get down about it because I'm like, oh, fuck, I have these people that rely on me now. And that sounds weird to say because it's like I'm a somebody when I'm really a nobody, you know? And that fucks my mental health up as well. So it's good and bad.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's sort of, I don't know if it'd be the right saying, but it is a bit sort of like is it a double-ended sword, would they say?
Yeah, double-edged sword, yeah.
That's the one. Like, obviously, it's got its perks, there's upsides and downsides to it, the same as there is for everything. Like, I can't think of anything that only has an upside or only has a downside. There is always...
Yeah, there's always both.
A bit of both.
Mm. You have to, but again, there's the lessons in it. You have to take the good and the bad and learn from both, and then use that knowledge to make less of one and more of the other, you know. And like anxiety and stuff like that is only built on experience. So for example, let's just say you're scared of flying. You're probably scared of flying because you've had more bad flights than you've had good flights. So the experience statistically has always been negative, so you then worry about it. For example, if you nearly drowned as a kid and haven't been in water since, you will be scared of going in water because statistically your experiences. So no matter what aspect of life, you have a knowledge, and the knowledge you need to use for data to then push you into the right. So for me, for example, Instagram, posting every day has then given me followers. So by default, my brain puts 2 and 2 together. You know, but if I say got no followers, then it would have the opposite effect, you know?
Yeah.
So, but I love the podcast. I appreciate you, Ben. You're always here. I appreciate you for that. We are, like I said, I'm in no rush, mate, but I don't know if you want to go anywhere because we've been doing 2 hours, 22 minutes. So I don't know if you want to wrap up. If you still want to talk, it's completely up to you. I'm not fussed.
I'm not too fussed. My tablet is on 9%, however, though.
Okay, we'll start to wrap up then. So is there anything more you would like to touch on, or anything you would like to ask me before we go into the 2 wrap-up questions at the end?
Well, I do actually have my notes here that I had in case I did panic and need to ask anything.
I told you you'd be fine. You've been completely fine for 2 hours and 22 minutes.
I was going to say, the amount of times I've messaged you since I found out I was coming on saying, I'm shitting myself, I'm nervous, I'm not going to be able to do it. I'm going to start.
Be fine, man. I told you.
I already asked you about how you found animals help with your mental health and everything.
Yeah.
And then one I haven't actually asked, but you sort of answered anyway, because I sort of answered it as well. But it was more so like, how have you found your mental health affects your day-to-day life and your feelings sort of towards the animals?
Mm.
But then the other question that I hadn't touched up on at all was literally just what made you want to start the podcast?
Okay. Good question. The truth of the matter is purely I would go on Facebook and I would see lizards in shit enclosures, and I thought I could help because I'm an expert and I'm nowhere near it, but I have quite a bit of knowledge. I'm willing to share, and I'm willing to tell the truth on my fuck ups. So I know that if I learned something, regardless if it was 2 days ago and I put a video out, I wouldn't wait 6 months to go, I was wrong. I would just make a video and go, well, that was fucking bullshit. This is actually the truth up to now. And I knew. Fee says he has a voice and wants everyone to hear it. Yeah. I want to make that sweet YouTube money, baby. No. But yeah, so I started it to basically try and push for ranid husbandry, and it seems to have turned into this, as it says at the bottom, therapy session for reptile keepers, because I seem to just touch on things that are in my brain, which tend to be more negative things rather than positive things, like rack keeping, selling animals to get new animals, fucking just mental health full stop. So I did want to just push monitor husbandry and help. And now it's sort of turning into a community, which I didn't expect. And I didn't know that I was going to make it a live podcast because it wasn't live before. And now it's more just a place to hang out and just talk about shit, if I'm completely honest. So it's sort of, but I'm going with the flow, because if I said to myself, it's just monitors and it's going to be monitors. For example, this episode, I would get off this and say to Phil, it's fucking shit, because it wasn't about monitors, if that makes sense. Like I did one about royals in racks with Riddler's Reptiles, who's a mate of mine. And it was my best performing podcast. And I loved it, don't get me wrong. But if I told myself I just want to do monitors, I would have been all the way through that. I'd have been like this, like fucking, because I know it's going off theme. So that's why I don't make notes, because my brain, for example, let's say I had 5 questions I'd written down I wanted to ask you. If I hadn't asked one, I would literally be itching to like ask it, because that's how my brain works. And I know that. So that's why I don't set myself up for failure. And also, I didn't want it to become a job, but now I know that I love it. I would love for this to become a job. But I didn't set it up for that reason. But I'd be lying if I said I wouldn't like to do this full time. So they're the 3: help lizards and make money. That's the main reasons. That's why I did it.
No, I was going to say, it's a very unique podcast in the sense that you do often have the therapy sessions essentially, and you talk about mental health. Because like
I wanted to do a mental health podcast, but I thought it'd be too hard to find people to open up like you have today.
Well, like I say, I'm very open with it anyway. I mean, obviously, there's some things I haven't shared. There's a lot of things I haven't shared. Be that on the podcast or to people I know. Like, there's certain things that only my partner knows. There's things that some people that are my closest friends that I'll never tell, because not so much I'm worried about judgment or burden. They just don't need to know when it's happened. So there's nothing that can sort of be done about it. It's in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I love the idea of having this segment on there. And personally, I'd say if you could squeeze a bit of it into every podcast, I think it'd be a great idea. Because because obviously it just gives people a chance, even if they don't want to talk, they can listen. Like we've spoken about our each individual issues, and we've seen in the comments how that's helped certain people, just being able to know they can vent or listen to others vent or reach out to others. It's massive. Because obviously a lot of people either feel like they can't reach out or won't reach out. And a lot of the time, like in the case of a friend of mine, this was before everyone started saying, oh, stop saying man up, men can reach out too. This was when it was a case of just you're just sad, man up. He didn't have people to turn to, and in the end he did unfortunately take his life. Whereas now it's a lot more open, and I feel that's going to be so much more beneficial. And I feel like even if the podcast helps one person come out and start talking to someone and stop them from doing that, whether they reach out in the podcast chat, whether they message you, whether they message me, whether they message both of us, if it helps one person, then that's already incredible. So yeah, like I say, I am bigging it up because, like I say, I think it's an incredible thing to do. And it takes a lot to talk about mental health, especially as a guy, but just in general, to just sort of hop on a podcast and be like, yeah, I'm depressed. I've got a personality disorder.
Yeah.
Like, it's me. Like, I can't change it. I'm going to have it for life. I can't kick it. So there's no point hiding it. I'm happy to be open about it because, as I've said, it helped me to know there was other people in that same boat. So hopefully it can help others to know that there's me in that same boat, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no. The one I did with Riddler, the non-live one, was like a 3-hour podcast. And towards the end, just out of nowhere, again, because none of them are scripted, he was talking about how he suffered with postnatal depression and really struggling with being a dad. I was speaking about similar issues, and we both spoke on mental health at the end of that episode. But because it wasn't a live one, this one was sort of, I've advertised it a little bit as a mental health one because I knew we'd touch on it. But that one was just off the cuff. And I do speak a little bit. I don't nowhere near as in detail as I've done on this episode, but I do speak a little bit on every episode. But the Riddler one went down really well because people listen to it all the way through, and then they're like, "Oh fuck," because at the end, they're not expecting it, and then all of a sudden they're just like, "Oh, like shit," and then it resonates with people without them even realizing. And I had a couple of people reach out to me after that episode, and they were incredibly grateful. I'll be honest, it's a lot of responsibility, which I'm fine with, but obviously that's why I didn't start a mental health podcast, because I forget what the word is, but there's a certain type of word that basically means that you take in all the other people's grief. And I know I would feel susceptible to that. So selfishly, that's why I haven't done a whole mental health. Maybe in the future, like I've contemplated retraining as a counselor, or a therapist. A lot of people have told me that I'm very good to talk to. I'm a very good listener. And for some reason that I just hold this space, which people feel safe to talk in. So I've contemplated being like a young person's counselor, which I still might do, but I need to retrain obviously. And then I need to earn a certain amount of money a month to pay my bills, which is a fucking lot of money a month because my bills are ridiculous. So it sort of takes away from that. But yeah, I definitely, I even on my Instagram, I'm open on my Instagram. Like I share depression shit on my stories. Like I don't shy away from it at all because, like you say, it's part of me. It's who I am. And if you're following me, you're following a depressed ADHD Crohn sufferer. So you know what I mean? Fucking, I don't think I'm depressed anymore. Like I thought I was depressed for a really long time, but I think I suffered with depression, and now I have ADHD. Well, I've had for a long time, but I think now I'm like ADHD, and one of the symptoms of ADHD are like depression-like symptoms. And I just assumed I was still depressed, but when I was depressed, I felt completely fucking different to how I feel now.
Yeah.
So either it's a different type of depression or it is something to do with the ADHD. But I'm still learning that and processing that. But I think that's what I have at the moment. The ups and downs isn't depression. It's because when I was depressed, I felt fuck all. Now I feel something. I'm either happy or sad. I feel something.
Yeah.
When I was depressed, I felt fuck all, like generally fuck all. And where I am right now, feeling sad, is so much better than where I was depressed, feeling fuck all, because you just feel completely numb and blank and then just cry all the time. Whereas now, I at least have the cognitive ability to be like, why are we upset? Let's think about this. Whereas then, like, I was just not like I was just gone. Like my whole brain was a fucking squiggle, and I was in a tiny little ball inside of my head, just curled up crying, and everything else was just fucking like the scene from Harry Potter when the fucking Dementors come and try and kill everybody. That's what my head was like, just shit, fucking like, boom, boom, boom. Like, so I'm not depressed now, but I've only come to that realization recently, you know.
Well, obviously you've lived with it, whether it be your whole life, half your life, a day, a month, it doesn't matter. If you've lived with it, then you have experience to speak on it. And like we said, you can't do comparative suffering. One person may be a slight bit depressed and they feel down, whatever. One person may be so depressed that it's the end of the world. They have no other option than to take that way out. But as long as, like, if you suffer with it, you can speak on it because you have that experience. It's not to say that people that don't have it can't speak on it, but you can't really have not suffered with it and then go up to someone who's depressed and be like, just have you tried cheering up? Or you sort of got to be able to have suffered with it to be able to understand where people are coming from a lot of the time.
So, anything else you want to ask me?
Not that I can think of. Other than I will say, if you ever want to do this again, please just reach out. Whether it's a reptile one, a mental health one.
Yeah, man. I'll have you back on.
We can go to Crocodiles of the World and do a live podcast there with them. Whatever you want to do, I'm happy to do. I've gone from being nervous to wanting to be next week's guest or whatever. I've absolutely loved it, mate.
Mate, honestly, you smashed it. And
I'm not gonna lie, I'm sweating like crazy and I'm really warm because I'm in the container as well. But Yeah, like I said, I've loved it.
I didn't want to give too much pressure, but I had a feeling this was going to be one of my favorite podcasts. But I didn't want to tell you that because I could tell that you were stressed.
I was gonna say, when I was walking over to the container to come do it, I was like, "It's gonna be fine. Just breathe. It's gonna be fine. Just breathe."
Yeah, but like I say, this is generally. I've got two wrap up. What percentage is your tablet on?
3%. We can squeeze
Okay,
it in quick.
we're going to squeeze this in. So, just quickly in chat, I don't know what fuck Michael's talking about because I haven't read, but he's talking about my mum. So I'm assuming he's on about eggs because my mum is a fucking crazy chicken hoarder. And my mum's got like 25 chickens. But anyway, Michael says, great job, Freddie.
Thank you, Michael.
But I just want to say, just quickly, then I'll do the two wrap-up questions. What we'll do is we'll do two wrap-up questions, and then I'll blow smoke up your ass just in case you get cut off. And then at least the wrap-up questions are done. So first wrap-up question is, what one piece of advice would you give to someone starting the reptile hobby?
Do your research, and if you need to ask questions online, do it. Just don't pay attention to the people that will be berating you or on the negative side. There is always people that are going to be negative in the hobby. You just have to deal with them. They're like yappy little dogs. You just got to let them do it and crack on, because there's people like Paul, people like me, people like Matthew, people like Julian, who's helped me a lot. I know everyone who keeps tree monitors loves Julian. But like you and Matthew have helped me massively. Like when I was doing V-Days enclosure, you said about having the branches go all the way up vertical and having them go to the top of the enclosure.
Yeah.
Didn't even think of doing that before. Now I've done it and she loves it. So always ask questions. Never be afraid to ask questions or to reach out to others.
Ben says, thoroughly enjoyed both. And Fee says, you've done a very good job, FJR.
Thank you very much, both of you.
And then the final wrap-up question is not reptile related, but what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
It's honestly hard to say, but I'm not just going to be biased because I'm on the podcast. I say, like you said, instead of aiming for the next goal, bring the platform up. Rather than just keep trying to chase the high of, oh, I've got this coming, I've got that to look forward to. Bring the platform up.
Yeah, man.
And like you say, focus on the now, the things I've got now, rather than worrying about, am I going to be able to get a blue tree monitor in 10 years? Oh, wait, I've got potentially 10 years to work with the animals I've got. Like, there's no rush. Just enjoy the now.
Yeah, man. That's all there is now. Tomorrow doesn't exist. It never comes.
And exactly, it's not guaranteed either.
Yeah, tomorrow never comes. Like, because as soon as it is tomorrow, it's today. So all there is now. In my spiritual teachings, all there is this moment. You and I talking right now. That's it. That's all that exists. And when this moment finishes, and you go back in and see your girlfriend, and I go and see my girlfriend, you're in that moment now. And then when you go to bed, you're in that moment now. So all there is that moment. So there's no point in worrying about the next moment because it doesn't exist.
I'm going to need to remember that and write that down, because that is a sound. Look, it's a sound bit of advice, but it's also a good little.
Yeah. My spiritual teacher taught me fucking loads, man. Like 80% of the problems, statistically, there's not a made up number. 80% of all problems in someone's brain don't even come into fruition. They don't even happen. And you just make up scenarios and you fucking overdo it. And you're like, oh my God, it's going to happen. This is going to happen. And then none of these fucking things happen. And you just stress and worry and wasted 4 hours of your life.
Like with me coming on today, and sitting there going, oh, I'm going to stutter, I'm going to say the wrong thing, I'm not going to know what to talk about. And then judging by the comments and by what you said, I haven't done too badly, so that's all right.
No, you've done, someone needs to tell Paul not to worry about, shut your fucking mouth. I'm good at giving advice, not receiving it. Anyway, before your iPad, whatever you're on, dies, I'm going to blow smoke up your ass because I do for every guest. And for people that know me, know I don't say shit for the sake of saying shit. I would have just ended it if I didn't have nothing nice to say because I'm one of those people. But I knew this was going to be a good podcast. Like, I remember when I messaged you about I think you were saying you're feeling really down and depressed in one of your Instagram stories a while ago. And then I reached out, and then your voice notes to me by how grateful you were. I was like, okay, this guy's fucking cool. And then I asked you to come on, and you were excited to come on, but also nervous, which you've said yourself, so I don't mind sharing. And I wanted to say to you, now, mate, this is going to be one of the best podcasts, but I didn't want to put the pressures on your shoulders. And I stand by that. This is arguably my favorite podcast, purely because I didn't know how it would go, in the sense of how the conversation would go, in the sense of what we would talk about mental health wise. Because obviously it's hard to just go, right, depression. But that's what I mean by that. Not because that's why I was like, let's talk about lizards for a bit, loosen up a little bit, then go, right, depression. Because how else can you fucking weave it into a conversation? But I'm incredibly, like I say, do I say proud? I'm incredibly proud of you, mate, because I don't want to make you well up because you said earlier.
I'm gonna say,
I'm not proud of you for how brave you've been sharing your stories on here, because, like you say, it's not easy to talk. It's not easy for someone to be like, "Hey, I've got fucking issues," like la-di-da, like this is what it is, haha. You know, normally it's I've got shit, like you said earlier. I've got shit that only Fee knows. No one else knows. Like, you don't have to share the world, but just having the bravery to say to someone, "Hey, I feel quite down today," is more than fucking brave enough. And I think you and I, and obviously this podcast wouldn't have happened without you, so forget me. But you and I together on this podcast would have and have changed at least that one person's life. So I think we can take that away. And we didn't really speak much on reptiles, so I'll get you back on to talk about your reptiles. And we can touch.
So we can get one during the day or something. I can try and get all the tegus and everything out. I can hear them digging around under their basking spot. They're moving around under where they sleep. The basking lights are all off, but I can hear them nestling around. So
I think I'm in your neck of the woods on Saturday.
I'm at work next weekend all day, Saturday and Sunday.
I think I'm busy all day, to be fair, but I'm going down to see with the reptiles, and I'm pretty sure he's your neck of the woods, but maybe next time, because it was just I'm at his house all day, to be fair, so I probably wouldn't have had time anyway, to be honest.
That's fine. We'll sort something, maybe during the summer or something when it's a bit nicer.
Yeah, man. We'll come and do we'll do an FJR reptile. What's the word? Room tour. That's what I was going to say there.
I have to tidy up a bit then.
I'm sure you're fine, mate. I'm sure you're fine. But like I say, thank you so much for coming on. Like, I genuinely appreciate.
Thank you for having me.
Your humility and your humbleness, in the sense of sharing your mental health struggles and the little bit of monitor talk we did have. And hopefully, maybe one day I'll be getting some tokens off you, because I don't know if I want to get them again yet, because I don't want to buy anything that I think I'm going to have to move on. So I need to be 100% certain that I'm going to get them. But if I am, you'll be the man that I'm going to go to, because I know how much you love your animals and how well you care for them. And I would rather support that than just go to a fucking pet shop and buy an import. Stop inviting.
That means a lot, mate.
How else can you go and see cool lizards if you don't invite yourself to strangers' houses?
So that's the best way to make friends. Just pull up to a stranger and be like, "Do you want to see me tree monitors?"
I'll just come in and be like, "I heard you needed some water for the podcast." But yeah, like I say, mate, I'm generally happy that we were able to connect on social media, and that we're here and able to share our trials and tribulations through mental health. And like you say, we've walked a very similar path in different shoes. So it's cool that we can come together and put our heads together and hopefully help people, because this has not really been about reptiles at all, which is, again, fine. But 6 months ago, I'd have been like, oh, fuck. But now, I'll be honest, I'm incredibly proud of this podcast, and you should feel the same.
I was going to say, I'm very happy. I'll be making sure I send a link over to all of my family that haven't caught it live. And if they're still watching, any of you.
His iPad has died. No. All right, I'm going to put my phone off silent and just message him quickly. We were so close. Thank you for coming on, man. He's messaging now. He's typing. So, well, that was that. Hope you all enjoyed that podcast. I've just died. But yeah, so thank you all for tuning in. If there's any questions now, rip. I mean, this is quite morbid, but I don't really care. It's a fitting end to a mental health conversation, isn't it? Just as well as give his family a shout out. So He says, pass all his love on to the viewers. Absolutely loved it. Well, that was Freddie on the Captive Raptors podcast. If any of you have any questions you would like to ask whilst you have my full undivided attention, drop them in the chat now. If not, I don't really care. Because you got to like, subscribe, comment on the video. It was a good one. It was a good one. It's a bit of a whirlwind of a podcast. Lots of emotions and feelings. Thank you for all hanging in and listening to us talk about mental health. Like, I generally didn't know how it would go, but I'm incredibly proud of it. Just as he was shouting his family out. Rest in peace, my friend. Rest in peace. Right, I am just going to hang around for a couple of minutes to see if anyone wants to ask me any questions. If not, I'm going to wrap this podcast up because I'm going to go to bed because I have to go to work tomorrow, even though I'm incredibly achy. What's on the Paul's Monitors bingo card? We should do that. We should do that. Cunt should be on there. I should stop saying that because I'm going to get monetized soon. And it's like early o'clock in America. And they're probably like, why is this Brit saying this? He didn't pick his nose, so I didn't win. I have to really refrain from stopping from picking my nose on the podcast. I nearly did. Just anti-snack rack missing on Full House. What the fuck is going on? I'm Paul and Fee. No, he didn't mention snake racks. I did mention snake racks and anti-snack rack. That's because I'm fat. We should create a Paul, or we might have to do this, create a Paul's Monitors bingo card. And I don't know how we can do it, but like pin it in the chat and see. Oh, is that what that means? GN. Oh, I'm an idiot. Good night. I wonder what you meant by on Paul and Fee. I was like, I don't understand what that means. But good night, Ben. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for your honesty, my friend. Thank you for tuning in as always. I really appreciate it. I don't think I mentioned it much, but I was just like, I don't really like I don't know, I think I mentioned Riddler and Snake Racks. We need a bingo card designed. Must have been a while. My internet was been playing ball. Yeah. I didn't talk about my Dorianis. I don't talk about my Dorianis. It's a sore subject. I don't talk about my Dorianis at all. No, I didn't go off on Snake Racks. I don't really do that, to be honest. Only when Riddler's on, because it's funny. Because he's got one. And he's never here. I turn up for all of his lives. Fake fan. Someone clip this and send it to him. Right, is that it? Is that all we've got? What's the time? 10 to 11. Wowzers. I didn't mention my day. Am I that predictable? It looks like you've all done shit on bingo tonight. What would this? I don't know if I want to know what's on the bingo card. What did you tick off? Depressed. Lizards need bigger cages. I love mango. Fee's a good girlfriend. I'm trying to think about what I talk about a lot. You don't want to know. Come on, let me know what I do. So, mangroves need bigger vivs. Watch you, mate. You old man. I don't know what's going on. Boxing. I would love to chat with you about my Tigu. Send me a message on Instagram and I will sort something out. I don't talk about boxing much. That's not a common thing. That's just in this one. I don't talk about boxing every podcast. I'm not taking that. I'll accept being fat. I'll accept that. And I'll accept my beard. The beard is probably, I didn't mention it today. She's back. Me selling up. Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah. I'll accept that one. Wow, there's a moth in here because I've got my window open. I mean, I'm just going for the view time now. We're nearly monetized, so we'll just keep running so people watch. People are going to get to like the actual end of this. Oh, Riddler sent me a voice note. What's he talking about? But yeah, any other questions? Drop them in the chat. Nah. If not, I am going to end this because we've been going for 2 hours and 49 minutes, 32 seconds. Hope you all enjoyed you and Mango's spiritual connection. I don't talk about that a lot. I'm not Longfield. You're clutching, mate. You're clutching. Play it live. So I want from now on the next podcast. Mitchell, that's a fair shout. That's a fair shout. Play Riddler's voice note. No. Okay. I don't know what this is gonna say, so I'm gonna. Oh. Let me see what it says. Nah, I'm not gonna play it. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do it. Should we do a little Instagram tour? Should we go through people's Instagrams? Whose Instagram should we go through? Still got 10 viewers. I'm like, this is sick. There's no substance to this, and there's still 10 people like chilling out. Appreciate you guys. Just whilst we're here, can everyone please like, comment, and subscribe? Just leave a comment. I don't care even if it's just. It helps a lot. It tells YouTube that your boy's got a sick podcast, and it pushes everyone to my channel. So yeah. Right. Anyway, whose Instagram should we go through? We're not playing Riddler's voice note. We'll play Riddler's voice note in a bit. Oh, why have you boys sent me loads of messages as well? Why is there a picture of Royal in my chat? I'll read all these in a minute. Oh! I've got a... this is an IG Live now. Do you still get view hours from this? I think so. I don't know if I get them from the live, but I do get them from the afterwards. We can go through Freddie's Instagram. I've got a message from a new special guest. He's agreed to come on my podcast. Wow. We can go through Freddies. All right, bear with me then. Right. Zoom out. Obviously, I can't see you guys anymore. This is Freddie. This is the beautiful tree monitors that Matt bred. He has said it, but I'm terrible at pronunciation. Oscara. I don't know. I'm not even going to try and attempt it. I nearly had that. We'll give it a like. I haven't liked that. That's a big morph as well. Think, Matt. You could have sold that to me. Look at that animal, man. Oh, how are people sleeping on the black trees? Leak it for content. What? Leak my DM? Attempt what? I could have had that animal. He's currently sat in the pitch black watching Monkey Tail Skinks and Paul's monitors just talk about things that he could or could not have had. Well, I'm going to be rude to all of you and respond to my special guest to say the name. Oh, I see what you're saying. He wants to come to my house and see my lizards. Monkey tails. It's a bit of an innuendo. I mean, when are you coming on, Mike? Are you coming on to talk about savannas? We've secured the guest. Fuck, I can't find one now, and the panic sets in. Matt, we've just spoke about all this the whole episode. No stress. When Fee's episode, living with a monitor addict. I've asked Fee many a time to come on the podcast. I said to her, like, just come and sit up with me. No, I think she meant you, Mike. Maybe she meant Michael. I think she calls Mike Mike because she knows it annoys him. So, yeah. So, you know, she meant you, Mike. Mike. I need to get rid of this moth before I leave the loft. Yeah, this is pretty much just an Instagram live at this point. It's very annoying. That's why she does it. You mess with the ball, you get the horns. I know she does it like because I live with her. So I don't have lizards. You're getting lizards. You come on and just ask me questions. That's not one of the requirements. There is no requirement to come on this podcast. What was I going to say? I don't know. I'm tired. Oh. I was my native language isn't English. Yeah, I was going to get Fee to come on. She doesn't want to come on. I was going to say to her, yeah. I said, just come up and chill. And we'll do a solo episode, but together. But she's not down. She no wanna come on the podcast. She no wanna come on the podcast. Oh. My phone just blows up the 3 hours that I'm not on it. It's crazy how many notifications I get. I haven't even posted a reel on Instagram yet. Shit. Good stuff, Paul. Thanks. Yeah, this has pretty much died out now, but thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you. You should do it, Fee. Social anxiety could never. I feel that. It's just like me talking to my laptop. You know, it seems strange. Right, let's go on another Instagram. Let's go on 3 messages. Wow. Whose Instagram should we go on? I tried to mute the mic when I could cough, but it didn't really work out. Oh, this is the Instagram of all Instagrams. Boom, look at that, baby. You'll do it when Mike does. Why about you and Mike do an episode together and then neither of you will speak? Well, I'm going to run this to 3 hours, so we've got 2 minutes left. And then I'm going, all right? So you got 2 minutes to say whatever you want, and I'll read it out, and then I'm going, because I've had enough. Mike's trying to get a Bosque. Oh, he's trying his best to get a Bosque. There's several moving parts, but he's going down the correct route, and he's trying to get a captive bred one. Good for you, Mike. Oh, that trim, though. Dead trim. I need a haircut. How about that? Yeah, boy. Oh no, let's not do that. at this point, I don't even know what I'm doing. The world does want you to, Mike. You're just choosing to look at it negatively rather than positively. You're gonna get through it, but you have to remember that it's about the journey, not the destination. So in this instance, that doesn't really work. But I never tried to make you. I just said if you can't get captive bred, then at least you're going to give a wild caught a good home. Someone needs sleep. Yeah. Well, we're about to wrap up. So the 11 people that are here right now, please leave a comment. Please just go onto the video and put an emoji. Please. Please. Anyway, next week's podcast will be at 1 p.m. UK time. Paul is bad at advice. Don't listen to him. Oh, we're over 3 hours now. Sons of bitches. Next week's podcast will be at 1 p.m. because we have an Australian on and they have completely different time zones. Yeah, that's about it, really. We're going to talk all things Audatria next week. So, yeah, keep them coming. I'm booked up. Well, don't worry, guys. We've got podcasts coming. We're going to hopefully be here every Sunday. Unless something drastic goes wrong or I'm away for a weekend. Like, we be here every Sunday. Audatria gang. Whoop, whoop. Yeah, so next week's podcast will be at 1 p.m. UK time, GMT. You'll be traveling. You're a fake fan. Fake fan. To get some Audatria. Whoop, whoop. And getting a Rudicolis. I'll be having lunch. What, 1 p.m. UK? Oh, it's 1 p.m. your time as well, isn't it? You have the same time. Great pod. Thanks for the hang. Have a good night. Thank you very much for hanging out. I appreciate you. Leave a comment. Leave a like. But I hope you'll have all the questions. If you want me to ask certain questions, message me and I'll ask the questions. Because you want to know about the old Kimmies. They might do it differently to us. The Australians might be wild, wild west. Who knows? No Rudy. Rest in peace. No Rudy. Right. Anyway, thank you all for tuning in. Love you all. It's the first time I've looked at the camera. Was that good? Thank you all for tuning in. Love you all. Like, comment, subscribe. Captive Raptors podcast. Peace at. Paul always does the podcast when I'm supposed to be in. That's not my fault that your food revolves around my podcast schedules. Anyway, bye.